Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the quarterly board meeting for the Tennessee Board of Regents. We begin this afternoon with our committee meeting, so we've got a full 3 hours or so in front of us, but some good work to do. First of all, what a tremendous morning we've had here. It's exciting to be at the new Knox Regional Health Center. What an amazing facility this is. Absolutely. So to Chris Whaley and Kelly Cheney and Chancellor and Dick Tracy and the whole gang, well done. Do you want to add anything?
I will just add the same thing. Well done to everybody that had anything to do with this building. It has turned out to be an incredible building. And while I've got the microphone, I'm going to do one more thing. I do want to thank Dr. Whaley and Dr. Cheney, but I've also found out that today is Dr. Karen Bruner's birthday. So could we all give her a round of applause for her birthday? Karen is Miss Roane State. So she does everything there is to do with that. And so we are so proud to be able to recognize her today.
What a nice little birthday present.
I'm telling, that's what I told her. I said we were here to celebrate.
Exactly.
There you go.
Thank you, Dr. Bruner. Well done. Well done. Put you to work on your birthday, but thank you. So that nice smile greeted me as I came in today, so thank you so much. Let's also officially welcome, although we've all been on a couple of Zoom meetings at this point in time together, Regent David Bradshaw from Oak Ridge. So good to see you live and in person. You didn't have far to come today. I know, exactly. Regent Christy Branscombe, welcome from Knoxville and our former General Services Commissioner for Governor Lee, who knows a thing or two about putting a building together. What do you think of this place? Absolutely. Very exciting. McKenna is on the line from Crossville. How's it coming putting your business together over there today?
It is coming together. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll look forward to hearing more.
Yes.
And thanks for calling in. And Matt
Absolutely.
Harriman from Murfreesboro. We're so glad you're here. So thank you. Welcome again. Is there anything four of you care to add? I know folks have been introduced, have seen your bios in the past. Anything additional you would like for us to know about you as you join us? So, well, we're grateful. We're grateful, A, that the governor asked you, and B, that you accepted. So here we go. As I said, it's nice to be in person. Just as a reminder, let's mute our phones, and then to speak, just hold your microphone down, and then obviously release it when you have completed whatever you'd like to say today. But we do hope for a good discussion since we have particularly on the strategic plan, which will be coming up here momentarily. Chancellor, anything else you care to add? All right, very good. Well, let's take advantage of this glorious space. And with that, Kyle Spurgeon, you have a big and important agenda.
I just looked at the list, and for some reason you gave me the longest one.
Exactly.
All
Well,
right.
because I decided
moved
you
up
needed
to the
some
front.
work.
So
That's right. That's right.
Let's roll.
Yes,
We
sir.
do have a lot to talk about, so I am calling the Committee on Academic Policies, Programs, and Student Life to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Regent Verdine. Regent Davis, can you confirm that you can hear and speak with us and that you are alone in the room?
Yes to both questions.
Thank you. Regent Harriman.
Present.
Regent Richardson. Here. And Chairman Spurgeon.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
We will proceed to the first item on the agenda, the consent agenda A, proposed revisions to TBR Policy 2.01.02.00, Technical College Program Review and Approval. B is proposed revisioning of TBR Policy 2.08.01.00 to new TBR Policy 3.08.10.00, that is Development and Operation of Global Program Studies. Members were briefed on these policies at the August 26th Committee Chairs meeting. Are there any questions on these policy revisions? Vice Chancellors Jonathan E. Reed and Heidi Lemming are prepared to answer any questions. Hearing none, I will call for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Secretary Perry, can we do a roll call?
Regent Davis,
Aye.
Regent Harriman,
Aye.
Regent Richardson,
Aye.
Chairman Spurgeon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 2, institutional mission profiles. For a synopsis of the institutional mission profiles, I'd like to call on Executive Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton.
Thank you, Regent Spurgeon, Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, members of the board. This first item is required in statute. It is simply a profile of each public community college and university that originated in the Complete College Tennessee Act of 2010, reiterated in the Focus Act of 2016. And they were really designed initially to assist THEC with construction of the outcomes-based funding formula to give a sense of who the college is, what's distinct about it, serves, its service area, things of that nature. These are reviewed annually by the staff here. They are then reviewed and potentially changed by each college and each president, and then submitted back to us for review. Along with that, you will notice in that agenda item, we found it prudent to also include the institutional mission statement, which is a pithy statement about what the college's essence is, sort of its soul. Those are valuable to come before the board for review and action, campus accreditation proceedings. So you'll see both the profile, which is required by statute, and the mission statement, which is more for internal purposes, in your materials. All these have been reviewed by staff. We recommend approval. If they were approved, we will transmit them to THEC for their consideration at their November quarterly.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton, and thank you for that information. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second? You have a second? Discussion. Secretary Perry, roll call.
Regent Davis,
Aye.
Regent Harriman,
Aye.
Regent Richardson,
Aye.
Chairman Spurgeon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 3 is proposed TBR 2025-2035 strategic plan. And for a report of the strategic plan, I would like to again call on Executive Vice Chancellor Rusty.
Thank you, Chairman Spurgeon. Well, we're excited to bring this to you today. This is the culmination of almost a year of work to develop a plan for the next decade, which is honestly hard to think about the year 2035. I think back to the year 15 and how so much was different about our world and about TBR's work, about Tennessee higher ed more broadly. And so it's a joy and an honor to be a part of an effort to think about that 2035 strategic plan. I want to start with where we're going to end and begin to kind of build this for you, but the theme that you will see that's in your materials, that's before you on the table, is TBR 2035, Building Tomorrow's College, which we think is not only a synthesis of what the process this past year really sort of emerged from those discussions, but also is thematically really important to who TBR is right now. I mean, Chancellor, you mentioned this morning the $1.5 billion that we're currently building. So this theme has resonance, we hope, not just with some practical efforts underway, but also hopefully captures a vision of what we think TBR is pursuing in the year ahead, or in the decade ahead, rather. As we look back, this process was unconventional. We gathered a steering committee and had focus groups not to necessarily talk about vision and values and those things. So that was part of it, of course, and that's important. But we really wanted to begin with some more existential questions and some more practical questions. Thinking about what does this state need from us in that year 2035? What do they need us to be? And if we were building a college from the ground up, without constraint of finances or politics or practicalities, what would you want to build? How would you build it? If you could just dream, what would you want to do? And then building from a long legacy within TBR of innovation, how do you begin to design that college of the future that we want? How do you begin to move towards that reality? Not always starting from scratch, but we are standing on the shoulders, all of us, of decades of previous leaders and thinkers and innovators who have set the stage for us, who have really handed us the responsibility of stewardship now in this moment. And so hopefully we are going to begin to do that for the next generation, thinking ahead to 2025. Those three questions really framed the discussions. The steering committee wrestled with these deeply. Those of you who were part of it, hopefully in some creative and fun ways. Again, it was a unique process that was done in-house, and talking to Regent Branscombe about this, I mean, important us to do it where we could really get a sense of the pulse of the system and our partners as we went through it, and we felt we could do that by doing it internally. Begin process, we began formally in January, began before that really, with that steering committee, which had representatives, of course, from this board, from the colleges, from partners throughout the state, and both industry and K-12. We met with, I think, 10 different focus groups throughout this past year, and nearly, I think it was, Amy, some 200 individuals uniquely who offered their perspective. Perspectives as diverse as student leaders at TCAT Pulaski to the president of national known organizations like SHIO and NCHEMS, and everything in between, trying to get a broad, diverse perspective of what people thought about those three core questions, how they thought about TBR, how they reckoned with what our future ought to be as people who know us, know our history, have worked with us, and been in this state for years. Also, of course, engaged this board deeply throughout every meeting y'all have had this year, including the board retreat, which was back in the spring with the presidents. And then these last few weeks and months, doing some, I guess what I would call reality checks with some state partners, commissioners at labor, et cetera, with some national partners. Again, think tanks who are the most respected in the higher ed policy field in the U.S., asking them who know us well, are we on the right track here? What have we missed? What are we not thinking of? So trying to take all that into account to bring you what is before us today for consideration. The architecture of this is, as you see here, starting with some core philosophical pillars. These are the ones that are in the current strategic plan. You have seen these before. We'll go through them in a minute. Open access, completion, community, and workforce development. The joke a little bit, and I don't mean to make this too flippant, but it's a bit like in the old Wheel of Fortune days when every contestant would say, I want the letters R-S-T-L-N-E in the final puzzle. Well, of course, everyone says those things. And then they eventually move to, what other letters do you want? Most every open access system like TBR is going to cite open access, completion, and community workforce development. So you don't want to stop there. But that's our philosophical core. That's our foundation. And then, as you saw in June, moved through the next layer, which are those strategic priorities. That's really where we tried to wrestle with what emerged from this past year, those amendments as well. And then what you'll see new in the material and here in the presentation today are another layer that further fleshes that out into some key practices. This is where we really try to find how TBR can begin to expend its time, its energy, its effort on certain projects, certain pursuits that give life to those priorities, that exemplify those pillars, that really help pursue that mission of building a college for the year 5. And then, of course, the measures of progress. How well will we know how we're doing? Some of that will also bleed into the next thing we'll talk about on the agenda, but how well we know we're pursuing these things in the proper way, and what are the metrics, quantitative and qualitative, that give us that sense. Again, these first two that you've seen before are sort of the structural elements of the plan. We don't think those will be changing over the years. But those key practices, perhaps even some of the metrics, hopefully do ebb and flow and flex as the decade changes. The things that we were all thinking about in the year 2021, for instance, are probably not exactly the same things we're thinking about today. And so we want the plan to be a living, breathing document, just as the current plan, the previous one, was. So again, those core pillars, access, completion, and community and workforce development, which really then gave way to those priorities. And you've seen these in June. We talked about them very deeply. That first one is the alignment priority, how you connect everything that occurs in the classroom and the students' extracurricular and co-curricular activities, that connect them to their ultimate goal, connect them to career, connect them to being able to sustain themselves and their families. That second priority is about how we redesign, in some cases, or design the college, both student-facing processes and ones that are more under the hood internal, all of which should hopefully center the student, center his or her success, and hopefully are designed such where it's not to the convenience of a TBR person or a college business officer or an advisor, but it's convenient and centered around the student. And third is a collaboration one, which has sort of two features, of course. One is an external sense of collaboration, how well we work with partners, university partners, as Dr. Lemming leads, and partners with K-12 and business and industry and national partners, but also how well we work as a system. We were not designed to be a loose confederation of 36 colleges. We are instead meant to be an interconnected system, and we are best when we move and work that way, which does not mean everything gets standardized and everything is consistent and the same across all 36. It does mean that there are issues on which we need to move and work as a system collaboratively. So that third layer, those key practices, this is some of the new material. Trying to find not necessarily projects or particular approaches, but things that we are either doing now or ought to do more of that, again, really give life to those priorities and those pillars. 7 or 8 things on each priority that, again, are not necessarily the most important things, or the most urgent things, or the things that are going to always be static, but ways we can begin to give life to those priorities. So as you kind of consume that first slide, as we think about how that alignment priority unfolds, you'll see things on there that we think are efforts either that are underway already, we have to double down on, or things that we don't do as well as we should now, that we ought to pursue more, to be able to fulfill that alignment priority. Same with the process one, how we think about ways we design structures, something as sort of tangible and real as financial aid, to how we think about recruitment, all sorts of matters. Business processes, you name it. How do we begin to move towards a way where we are redesigning, in some cases, those processes which center the student and his or her success? And then, of course, in the collaboration space, some of these things you've seen and heard before. Some of these things are active pursuits now underway. I think about the Student Support Network. You think about some of the university partnerships and working with incarcerated students, all sorts of things that, again, really give life. They give us a tangible sense of where we as a system can put our time, energy, and effort to begin to fulfill the priorities and goals of this plan. And then, lastly, how do you measure our progress? How do we know what we're doing? Some of the things on here are familiar. We've got a metrics dashboard that's launching along with this plan if it were approved. It has some familiar metrics on there. Some things you're going to see here in a few minutes where we talk about enrollments and completions and student success. But there's some other muscles we want to develop and begin to flex here about how we can capture sentiments from current students, former students, business and industry partners, to get their perspectives and to get their perceptions on how well we are fulfilling what our goals are. So those metrics are a combination of things that we currently do and do pretty well, I think, and also some areas we want to advance and pursue in some new ways, all of which will be publicly available, very transparent. So with that, let me draw your attention to a couple things, and as we make a transition, so I can show you the actual plan. And remember, the plan itself is an interactive infographic on the website. The full plan is that, which gives us that chance to be very flexible, transparent. In front of you is what we're calling the roadmap, which is essentially an 80% version of what's on the website. Some of the narrative and text is not here. It's a way, and I actually may ask you, yeah, some of you are figuring it out, it's a way to sort of unfold the story as you go, to see how the story unfolds throughout the strategic plan as we begin to work through those 3 sort of philosophical questions to get to how do you design that college of the future? How do you build tomorrow's college? It walks through sort of the TBR history and legacy, what we value and why, how we're building upon the process we went through to get to the goals and priorities that are in the plan. That QR code in the middle will take you to what is right now still, of course, a draft website, which I want to invite you to do so. And we're also going to, Carol and I are going to do a little duet here where we trade off and are able to show you the website itself before we come back and close it out. So that website, I think I could work a mouse after all. And again, it mimics the story, starting with our mission, starting with our legacy of innovation, the background, our core values. And as the user scrolls through, you begin to see those 3 questions that really began to shape the design process we went through. Those 3 core questions about how you design that future college, which then leads into those strategic priorities. Building tomorrow's college means what? And those 3 priorities then allow to explore them further, to learn more about what's in that first priority, to see those practices, get a sense of the types of programs that exemplify that kind of work. You see here, General Education Corps, the apprenticeship program at TBR, high impact practices, again, things that are giving life and manifesting themselves in that way. and also our progress, some news, some recent events, connections back to the metrics dashboard. So each step of the plan allows the user to kind of dig in more deeply and hopefully understand TBR's core journey here that we've been going through. That. Switch back to the slides and I'll make one more closing. The next steps we're going to go through here, thinking about what happens next. First is, if it were to be approved, is how we then share it, how we disseminate this, how we get the word out to both colleges, partners throughout the state, throughout the U.S., how we begin to tell that story. We don't want this to become an inert object that sits on a shelf, but how do we get it out there so people can see it, breathe it in, have it resonate over time? Some ways in which we're trying to bring it to life are internal. We have operationalized what we call strategy teams within TBR. These are cross-functional groups who come together around an issue. We have strategy teams now around dual enrollments, AI, non-credit to credit transfer, all sorts of topics to bring together different folks to help attack an issue and help think about it holistically as a system. And then finally, how we align this plan with college plans, how we align it with other state plans. We've been fortunate, if I may, Regent Gentile, to be walking alongside them in a concurrent process where THEC has been pursuing a revision of their next 10-year master plan. Chancellor Tidings and others have been involved in that process. We've had Regent Gentile's Chief Strategy Officer, Amanda Clefane, on our committee. Being able to walk alongside them as we have heard the state conversations have been very beneficial to us, and we hope to align those efforts along the way. So that concludes where we have been this past year. Happy to answer questions about this effort along the way.
Thank you, Chancellor. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. A lot of discussion. Well done. Question?
I don't have questions. I'd like to thank Russ and Dr. Moore for all the work. So for me personally, I feel great about this product. I love the fact that, and this does take forward for another 10 years. So 10 years from now, when I'm home watching, I will look forward. I will look forward to hearing the results as we build tomorrow's college. So thank you.
I could say too, that a lot of hands go into this. It has been a joy, honestly, to do this process. Part of the reason we wanted to keep it in-house is frankly because we probably have more fun than we deserve to have doing this, but it involves so many people in the audience from every area of TBR. John Williams and the digital strategy marketing team have built the stuff you see here. So it's an all hands on deck effort. Really proud of the collaboration internally. Proud to bring it.
I'll add that as chairman of this committee, I got to see a little bit behind the scenes. I came on board when you're about 90% done, but I'll tell you, anyone that's been through a strategic planning process, you know, it's very difficult work. So you and your team should all be commended for what you've done. I think about, you know, this $1 billion plus in new facilities. They mean nothing without a plan. So now we have a very good plan. So congratulations. Work well done.
And just to sing and echo the praises of this plan and the process, you will all get a chance next month to hear about where TX Strategic is going. And there has been such a already, not just in how we do the same rooms, and who's not, and how can we get the same room. What we intend to do strategic after this announcement, connect with institutions and systems, see how that goes through institution. And TBR's plan as is right now is already so far ahead. Conversation, but same with the TX process. I feel you have any relation with higher education, you've somehow been involved in this process here.
Any further discussion or comments? Regent Harriman?
Thank you, and I'm not a member of the committee, but I just want to say I love the plan. I would encourage you, especially on the website, to include the measurable, how you're going to measure this, just so as you're going to go through it, kind of the aha, this is what that means. I think that'll be very helpful.
Thank you. We'll connect those.
Great comments. Any others? With that, Secretary Perry, let's do another roll call vote.
Regent Davis,
Aye.
Regent Harriman,
Aye.
Regent Richardson,
Aye.
Chairman Spurgeon.
Aye.
Carries.
Dr. Deaton, you cannot sit down yet.
So
So
you have more.
please continue. You've got a presentation on the student access and success.
Indeed. So this is the normal time of year we would bring this to you, talking about new enrollments we see for this fall. We've got a fresh look at the recently completed 24-25 academic year, where we kind of bring you success and access trends. It's fortunate that we're doing this after the strategic plan because a lot of this is very much linked. A lot of the metrics that we have designed within that metrics dashboard for the plan are things you'll see here today. And things that we're going to continuously always update you about that really, again, give us a sense of how well we are fulfilling this core pillar of access, completion, development. So let's go through them one by one. As we think about our open access mission, and I want to actually pause upon that for a moment because we're the only sector, the only system of higher ed in Tennessee that is charged with that mission, which simply means we serve everybody, regardless of background, circumstances. We meet people where they are and try to get them goal they want to pursue, whatever that is. That's a unique calling, and it'll also speak later on to the complexity of our mission. As we look through the early fall enrollments, everything here is preliminary. Again, we're only a few weeks in the semester. These numbers will move and settle. We are up in enrollment at community colleges around 4% at the same time last year. I'll put that in historical context here in a moment. TCATs are up about 6%, again, at this point in the trimester. We're going to have much more to say about TCATs when we see their full enrollments here later on this year. So this will focus mostly on colleges today. With those numbers, if you put them in context the last 10 years, it really followed sort of the state's policy journey along the way. We begin this chart with the year that Promise started in 2015, which, by the way, is remarkable to now think back. It's been a year since Promise began, where we had a surge in enrollment in the college sector, which continued on the next few years and even got further to higher enrollments when Reconnect began in 2018, all of which then drastically receded as the COVID pandemic hit us, of course. We've been on a steady movement upward since then. That 4% growth is really heartening to see. It's similar to universities, which I think Regent Gentile are up about 2% or so. So statewide growth, so far we're happy to be at 4% at community colleges, but really that enrollment growth has followed the trends over the last 10 years as state policy changes have really, we've seen the impacts of those. The complexity of the community college mission, and again, I've said this before, but sometimes our university partners will bristle, but I think it's true. Our mission is much more complex because we're serving all of those student population types, 3 of which are illustrated here. First is dual enrollment, which as y'all have heard before, and you'll hear more later, has been probably the primary growth driver in higher ed and in TBR specifically for the last several years or so. We've seen dramatic growth the last 4 or 5 years in particular. Our colleges have focused in on how to expand those offerings. There's also been sort of a push and a pull from both the K-12 sector with the EPSO requirements that they have that have caused some of this growth. That middle chart is probably the most exciting if there were one, which is that new freshmen are beginning to grow robustly. We're up 5% in freshmen. Mostly these are recent high school grads, though we of course get new freshmen every year from all ages, but a lot of them are recent high school grads, and we're up 5% over last year. And you can really see those long-term enrollment trends impacted here. Again, as Promise surged, those freshmen in 2015 kind of plateaued for a bit, really got devastated in the pandemic. Now, since about 2022, on a slow uptick higher. And then adults. Gosh, this is such a crucial population. These tend to be what economists call counter-cyclical with the economy. Economy gets better, enrollment for adults goes down, etc. We're seeing enrollment growth now of about 6%. Again, you saw the effects of Reconnect's establishment in 2018. As the economy was really booming, you saw some of that enrollment growth recede, and now it's growing again of about 6% year. You look around individual colleges, to call out several, Jackson, Columbia, Pellissippi, and Northeast, all with double-digit increases in new freshmen. Jackson again, Roane, Southwest, double-digit growth. Adults, you see Chattanooga, Nashville, Jackson, Roane, and Southwest. Jackson State fell just short of a triple crown. We were kind of hoping we would see that for the first time. It's a fun baseball reference to make, but they were beat out by Chattanooga and Nashville. Again, all of our colleges have really good news across the board. We're really happy to see a lot of efforts at the colleges paying off as they really focused on bringing in all of these different populations into our colleges. Moving on to completion. And some of the context here too, before we get into the numbers, is important because if you were to have a conversation about completion in the year 2005, you would have not heard a whole lot. Back then, it was much more of a policy focus on access and enrollment. Much of the data presentations like this focused on demographics and enrollments and access, all of which are hugely important. But over time, that policy conversation shifted to completion, which is where we've been the last 10, 15 years. It's shifting further, by the way, to completion plus what happens after that, so those post-completion outcomes. But the policy terrain in Tennessee has really mirrored that, and focus on completion has been a central facet of TBR and THEC Tennessee policy for the past 15 years or so. Looking at the initial 24-25 data, our awards at community colleges are up about 6%. This includes everything from certificates, short-term and long-term, transfer associates, AASs, you name it, it's in there. 6% overall. Again, some historical numbers are coming in a moment. And then you'll see a subset of completion metrics, our graduation rates. And again, this is a subset of our students. Most of our students are not first-time freshmen that even get measured in a graduation rate. But when we isolate those who do, we are seeing the highest graduation rate TBR has ever had, which is at 33% for a 3-year graduation rate. Looking at those awards over time, you see the 10-year trend. Again, the policy momentum from Promise and Reconnect, peaking our awards in around 2020, 2021, coming back down during the recession or during the COVID pandemic, and then moving back up these last few years at around almost 15,000 credentials at TBR. Again, some context, when Drive to 55 was established, that educational attainment goal, each system, each sector got a goal from the governor. TBR exceeded our goal, I think, Chancellor, in 2017. And so Governor Haslam at the time asked this board to increase its target, to increase its goal, which we did and have met that as well. So proud of the work that's been going on in the system for the past 10 years. Individual college numbers, I'm going to highlight Chattanooga on the left-hand side in those blue bars. They're up 28% in credentials year over year. Really remarkable growth at Chattanooga. And over the last decade, and I know Dr. Cook is behind me, Dyersburg State has grown, almost doubled their credential counts over the past 10 years. Remarkable, especially because in a part of the state that has not experienced population growth over those decades. So some remarkable work from the professionals at Dyersburg over the years. Now, because of the complexity of the community college mission that I mentioned, and because of some of the limitations naturally that a graduation rate offers, we've been innovating the last few years around a different way of thinking about student success. And you've seen this graph before, but it's really trying to capture what we call a comprehensive success rate. At 3 years, when people tend to measure graduation rates, students don't stop. They don't stop at a 3-year window. They keep going. They keep going to graduate. They keep going to transfer to other places. They're still enrolled. We try to capture all of that in what you see here. So if you take into combination students after 3 years who have graduated, are still enrolled at their college, or have transferred, we add all that up and produce the rate. And we do those not just simply within the home institution, but obviously looking as broad as we possibly can. We can find the student as a graduate or an enrollee, we're going to capture it. That overall success rate hovers around the mid-40s mostly. And you see the last 3 years, we've gone from 42 to 51%. We are moving that number up. I honestly cannot tell you exactly why right now. It's probably the sum total of many different things that are going on at the colleges. But that number is on the way up, the highest that we've ever seen. Again, these numbers are not where we want them to be. We have a lot of work left to do. Be very clear about that. But we're also seeing some new heights in both of these metrics, which we're really proud of. Looking at individual colleges, and Fortuitously, we are on Road State's campus, who has the highest three-year graduation rate within the system, tied with Dyersburg at 42. Walters, Dr. Reyes, you're coming in just a point behind. 3 colleges over 40%. Really good numbers. The largest growth, Columbia State, increased graduation rates from 31 to 38% in a year. Remarkable achievement there. And those overall success rates, that comprehensive success rate, again, is the highest here at Roane, Pellissippi, and Columbia. Very proud of all these colleges. Finally, that third pillar, community and workforce development. This is largely derived from a unique tool that you've heard Dr. Moreland present before called Careers Start Here. We are fortunate to have what I think is the most sophisticated labor higher ed alignment tool in the state, where we can see things about post-graduation, post-enrollment outcomes in the labor market for our students that really no one else can see at this level. It's a product of a unique partnership with the Department of Labor, with a bilateral data sharing agreement, which allows us to continuously look at what's going on with our students when they leave our colleges. Looking at those allows us to see some metrics that are important to this presentation, important to the strategic plan about employment rates. If you look across all of our community college graduates from last year and look a year out, we see 85% of them in the Tennessee labor market data. That data captures most of the employment in Tennessee, not all. We don't have the ability yet to see out of state. With those limitations, we still see 85% of graduates in the Tennessee labor force 1 year after college. You look 5 years out, that number is still at 77%, a remarkable number. We can track that by program, by college, but overall, those are the system-wide numbers for our community colleges. Looking at individual colleges, Cleveland State has some very healthy numbers in both metrics. You look at Motlow State, they've got a really high proportion of graduates who are in high demand and high wage fields, that combination that's really rich. And then Volunteer State has probably the most robust portion of graduates who are in the health science fields. We're in the health science or health programs building. Vol State's been one of the leaders in TBR in producing graduates who not only have healthy wages, but are working across the state and across so many different fields. So finally, to summarize all that, again, enrollment is up. We think that's driven by a whole host of different populations dual enrollment, first-time freshmen and adults. You've seen the highest success rates we've had in our history, still a long way to go. Not satisfied at all, but they're the highest we've ever had. And we still see our graduates very likely to be in the workforce earning livable wages across our colleges. Mr. Chairman, that concludes that overview. Happy to answer questions from anyone.
Anyone have any questions? I would like to say I'm going to continue the baseball references
Please.
and say that you pulled a Fernando Tatis.
Nice.
Not too many folks in the room will get this, but you hit 2 grand slams in the
One
same inning.
I was watching against the Dodgers
Extremely
in
well
1990.
done.
I was watching that game at the time.
Well done. So,
Mr. Chairman? Sorry to speak so much, but we had, as part of our master planning process, back in May, I think it was the workforce conversation, and we had a couple of people in this room. I think Mr. Drake was there, but also Marcia Barker. She's the director of adult services at Chattanooga State Community College, and she gave about a 3-minute just overview as she was in at a working table there about the work she was doing at Chattanooga State with regards to advertising the Reconnect Scholarship, and went down about a 5 or 7 bullet list of things that they were doing that were new on that campus. And it was small things, honestly. It was putting Reconnect on the front webpage, or just getting out in the area, but then some big things as well. And I saw that Chattanooga State was up 15% on adult learners, number 1 of our institutions. And I know I've talked to several people in this room about that. I think the Reconnect Scholarship is greatly under advertised at the state level, at institution levels as well. I think we'll probably hear later on under agenda item 5 about how we could be better about talking about that. TEC is thinking right now about marketing Reconnect. I have met with Reconnect students who are grateful for the Reconnect Scholarship and had no idea that they were going to get tuition free paid for until they applied and went to the college. I think we have a great missed opportunity in how we're not getting out there and seeing Chattanooga State up 15% in adult learners. And I know it's correlation, not causation, but the work that she's been doing on advertising, I think we can learn a lot from that.
Deaton. Dr. Deaton, I think you can return to the dugout now.
Great, thank you.
Well
Thank you, Mr.
done.
Chairman. Thank you.
I will stop after this one, but stepping up to the plate now will be
Step more. She
I
loves
promise
baseball.
that's
She
it.
gets all the references, I promise.
Assistant Vice Chancellor Amy Moreland, and she will give us a demonstration on learning support in the Tennessee Coaching Project.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Regent Spurgeon, Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, and members of the committee and board. You heard from Dr. Deaton about TBR's open access mission, and a key part of that mission is serving students regardless of their levels of academic preparation. And so today, on behalf of TBR's research and data team, I'm honored to share new research about how community colleges across the state are serving those students, strengthening academic preparation for those students who arrive at college underprepared for college-level coursework. Over the past decade, Tennessee's community colleges have led the nation in reimagining academic support. From key policy reforms to innovative practices, colleges have built a system that opens access to college-level coursework and strengthens student outcomes. This work of academic preparation and support affects the majority of community college students. To put this into some perspective, last fall, for every 100 first-time students, first-time freshmen at community colleges across the state, 75 of those 100 students were deemed academically underprepared for college-level coursework based on the state's definition of academic preparation. 15 of those 75 students participated in pre-college readiness programs, like the award-winning TBR sales program, which you'll actually hear more about tomorrow. But 60 of those 100, 60% of first-time freshmen at community colleges were placed into what we call learning support. And over the past decade, cumulatively, that has meant that 100,000 community college students across the state have been deemed academically underprepared and placed into this kind of academic support. Of course, just a few moments ago, you all as a board adopted a new vision for the decade ahead. And we think this work that I'm telling you about around academic preparation addresses core parts of that plan. This work addresses strategic priorities around academic preparation, coaching, and generally improving the college processes that shape the student experience. This new research report, Gaining Ground, tells the story of a significant Tennessee reform that reached its 10th anniversary this fall. We're celebrating a key milestone this year. To understand the impact of that reform a decade ago, it's perhaps helpful, though, to remember how things were then. Back in 2015, or prior to 2015, when underprepared students arrived at community colleges, they were often placed into long remedial courses or sequences of remedial courses. Very few students made it through those courses and never had the chance to take the college-level general education courses that they came to college to take. Few students were able to move beyond those remedial courses and advance to the programs of study that brought them to college. In fact, in that old model, only 1 out of every 5 students was able to advance to that college-level coursework. This model delayed students' progress, consumed their time and their financial aid before they ever got to earn college-level credit. But of course, that changed a decade ago. In 2015, Tennessee implemented a co-requisite system that changed the game. It replaced remediation with just-in-time support and dramatically expanded students' access to those gateway courses that typically begin a student's program of study. Under that new model, all students were able to enroll directly in college-level gateway courses, and then those that needed extra help received targeted support in paired concurrent courses that were offered as co-requisites rather than prerequisites. This approach replaced the delays of the old system with momentum, and it's remained the foundation of learning support, of academic support at community colleges for the past decade. When that happened 10 years ago, Tennessee and TBR received significant national attention. We were the first system in the country to scale this innovative model across all colleges and subjects, and the results were immediate. TBR and Tennessee community colleges were widely recognized as the college system that was furthest along in implementing those reforms. But the story that is perhaps most interesting is not what was done a decade ago, but what is being done now. Because even now, Tennessee still leads the nation in implementing these reforms. Now, I'll note there should be a map on the right-hand side of your screen. It looks like it's not showing up, so I will describe it to you. It's a map of the 50 states, and the centerpiece of that map is Tennessee. Because while other states are working to adopt these reforms, few have. In fact, only 7 other states have made progress, like Tennessee has, towards implementing these reforms. And even those states still very much look to Tennessee community colleges for guidance on how to sustain these reforms. In our state, those reforms, both a decade ago and sustained ever since, showed dramatic improvement in student outcomes, all by just expanding student access to those courses that they came to college to take and providing them support along the way. In both math and writing core subject areas, we've seen from those reforms that the share of students completing gateway courses in those subject areas has essentially doubled. Those gains were realized right away at the outset of these reforms, but more importantly, and distinct from many other states, those gains have been sustained since. Over the past decade, those gains combined translate to 50,000 additional students taking and completing gateway courses at colleges across the state. 50,000 more students than we would have projected if the old model had stayed in place. But the other story this data tells, and where our story really picks up, is that when we look at that data, we recognize real success, real improvement, but we also see that some challenges remain. Because while you see, for example, in math, that gateway course completion rates rose from 17% to 45%, tremendous positive growth, that data still means that now more than half of students still aren't completing those gateway courses, underprepared students in learning support, that is. And in fact, while we've seen improvements in gateway course success, we know there's also still more work to be done in helping those students not just complete those gateway courses, but also persist towards completing a degree or certificate. Because in spite of these reforms, we've actually seen that over that time period, the number of students persisting from one term to the next or 1 year to the next has actually stayed pretty flat. And so it is in response to those challenges, those ongoing goals of improving gateway course outcomes and persistence, that this board has enacted over the last 5 years a series of policy revisions. After that initial policy reform in 2015, and in addition to the board's ongoing support for research and pilot innovation in learning support, this board has also enacted in 2020, again in 2022, and in 2023, a series of policy changes to the system-wide policy that guides faculty and colleges in the ways in which learning support is delivered. So our new research that we will release this fall begins to tell the story of these changes. In addition to that landmark change a decade ago, what was the impact of these more recent policy changes that you all as a board have enacted? I'll give you just a few examples where we're able to observe through data the impact of some of these policy changes in this more recent era of reform. So for example, in 2022, this board took action to change a 40-year-old policy that determined how students were deemed academically underprepared. In the traditional model, students were deemed academically underprepared primarily based on standardized test scores, like their ACT. But in 2022, this board, after a 2-year pilot, adopted a policy change that added students' high school academic achievement, like their high school grades and GPA, as an additional measure of students' readiness for college-level coursework. So that colleges could look both at students' ACT scores and their high school GPA to determine what kind of support students needed. As a result of that policy change that you all have made, since then, nearly 14,000 community college students across the state have been able to bypass learning support and go directly to college-level courses. And those students, it turns out, are among the most successful of any group of students at community colleges. In addition, in 2023, this board adopted a significant overhaul, a modernization of that system policy on learning support. That reform revised the original 2015 reforms and implemented changes based on everything we've learned from the last decade. As a result of that board's, this board's policy action 2 years ago, colleges have tried to improve the alignment of courses in the co-requisite model and made a number of other improvements. One result of that is that this past year, in fall 24, the share of students completing gateway math courses that align with their career goals grew by 35%. And so that new report tells this story. It also provides much more in-depth analysis of the data that is summarized here to tell the story of the impact of these policy changes and to highlight the work colleges have done to improve outcomes for students in learning support. Lastly, these policy changes enacted by the board have been accompanied by support from this board for further improvement, for further innovation in learning support. So back in that 2023 revision, you all as a board adopted a learning support innovation framework that challenged colleges to keep thinking of new ways to do this work better. Chattanooga, Nashville, and Pellissippi are among the colleges that have answered that call. They're leading the way in helping find the next wave of innovation in serving underprepared learners. They're doing that through grants awarded by TBR that are helping them streamline courses, embed tutors and other supports inside the classroom, and connect students with resources outside the classroom. Tennessee is still recognized as a national leader in continuing to reform learning support because of this work. As part of that same movement to improve outcomes for learning support students, this board has also heard updates over the years about something called the Tennessee Coaching Project. This project was specifically designed to address a challenge we spoke about just a few moments ago, that while we've seen lots of improvement in serving underprepared students, we see that many of them still do not persist beyond their first semester or year of college. And so in a 4-year pilot project at Jackson and Northeast State Community Colleges, supported by some grant funding, these colleges have conducted an experiment that paired academically underprepared students with coaches who are specifically trained to help those students navigate college and explore careers. These 10 coaches across those 2 colleges are trained specifically to help students focus on course success and career navigation, and they are powered by a lot of data that helps those coaches find the students that need their support and deliver that targeted support. This model, as you may remember from prior presentations, has been tested through a rigorous randomized trial, which helps us really isolate the impact that coaching is having on student success. Over the last 3 years, those coaches have served nearly 5,000 students, and each September we have brought you outcomes from this pilot effort. With each set of new results, we feel a little bit more confident every time that we are gathering evidence that this is working. And the data I'll share here is our most recent data from this project, but also our most promising. Each semester, we've seen improvement in outcomes for students that are working with coaches, and I've joked with the coaches that we will keep working until every student is successful, that our work will be done when 100% of underprepared students are persisting and graduating. And I'll tell you, we're not yet to 100%, but the coaches have put us on notice, which is that we're real close. The results at Northeast State are quite extraordinary. What we saw for students who are academically underprepared and working with a coach, 91% of those students persisted from their first semester to the next, 19 percentage points higher than their peers that did not have access to a coach. We also see that those results are beginning to be sustained over the long haul. When we look not just to see, do they persist to the next semester, but did they come back the next year? Are they still going? We're continuing to see positive outcomes. 67% of those learning support students at Northeast came back the next year. In our system, students can be placed into learning support for multiple subjects. A student may be deemed academically underprepared in math, reading, and writing. And traditionally, we've seen that students that are placed for multiple subjects are the ones that are least likely to persist and graduate. But what we've seen in this model, what Jackson and Northeast have done that's especially remarkable, is that the results are strongest for students with greater need. For students at Northeast who were placed into learning support for 2 subjects, say math and writing or reading and writing, 100% of those students persisted to the next semester. Every single student came back. For those students with 3 placements who needed support in every subject area, that's where we actually see the biggest differences. 66% of those students persisted from fall to fall. And we see really similar outcomes at Jackson, where the biggest gains are among the students who traditionally have struggled the most to persist. This research tells this story, the story of how community colleges over the past decade, and especially over the past year, have implemented a series of changes to improve outcomes for underprepared learners. We started with those reforms from a decade ago, but in partnership with this board and thanks to the work of faculty and staff across the system, we've added a number of additional reforms that have made this system stronger. We'll release our report about these changes to the public on October 1st, and all of our research about co-requisite learning support or the ways that colleges are serving underprepared learners is available on our website, and you can use that QR code to get there. With that said, I am happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Amy, it's always great to hear you give a report because you're just a little bit passionate about it. So extremely well done. Are there any questions, comments? Regent Powers.
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment on the math. You had added a little tiny note down there that it was $500, the cost associated with each coach. I just think that's impressive considering the impact. I mean, talking about bang for your buck, you really get it there. So 5,000 students, 10 coaches, that's incredible. I'm just impressed. Thank you.
And thank you for calling attention to that. And I forgot to mention that it is, we think, a relatively cost-effective intervention. It's not cheap, but you get your money's worth, hopefully. As part of our research that we'll be releasing this fall, the research and data team that's here is working on a really in-depth study of the return on investment. So as more students are persisting, that translates into dollars through tuition and the state's outcomes-based funding formula that we hope over time can be used to help support the cost of coaching.
Anyone else? Thank you, Vice Chancellor Moreland. Moving on to number 6, for a report on connecting strategy and opportunity, the Office of Strategic Enrollment and Statewide Dual Enrollment Work. I would like to call on Vice Chancellor Troy Grant.
Hello, good afternoon. Regent Spurgeon, Vice Chair Reynolds, Chancellor Tidings, members of the board, thank you so much. So with great pith, Russ has reminded me for the last 2 weeks I have 15 minutes to talk to you. I'm always eager to please Russ, but I'm also driving him home tomorrow. So I come to you with like great motivation to meet my time requirement. So I'm here to provide you an update on the Office of Strategic Enrollment Management, an office that was created a year ago when I had the great privilege of coming to the Board of Regents. We're also going to be talking about some dual enrollment work as a kind of a follow-up to work that Russ was able to present to you in June. There we go. Oh, got ahead. Okay, so I'm also very relieved that you approved the strategic plan because it is the foundation upon which I built this presentation. So the three pillars that we talked about, this idea of open access, completion, what we are doing in terms of workforce development and supporting communities are the underpinnings of everything we do at the TBR, the system office at our campuses, but also with our new office of SIM, Strategic Enrollment Management. I want to talk specifically as it relates to those strategic priorities. These you just saw with Dr. Deaton. The second and the third one I want to really zero in on. Improving the student experience. Thinking about what our processes look like, how are we supporting that student experience? Also the collaboration piece, both within the system and as we think about marshaling resources from our partners. These are the bread and butter of what we do in strategic enrollment management, and we're going to be talking more about that today. But I want to give that context because a lot of what we'll be talking about is rooted in this work of what our vision is for the next 10 years. So the Office of SIM, and that's very small if you can read it, but I will read it to you just to make sure you can see it, or hear it at least. Over the last year, I've been here for officially a year, we've been having conversations across the system. We've been having conversations with presidents, with external partners, and those conversations have been, what are ways and the functions that we have in the Office of SIM where we have provided value? What are ways in which we have thought we have provided value, but maybe we were missing the mark? If you had a magic wand, what would it look like where we could provide value to the work that you are doing? And through those conversations, we've developed this purpose statement in terms of how we think about our work in the Office of Strategic Enrollment Management. And what you'll see here is that we are aiming to be a trusted partner who walks alongside our colleges. And we are walking alongside them to create student-centered enrollment experiences that expand access, increase enrollment, improve retention, and accelerate completion. And we do this by supporting our colleges to remove barriers, to streamline processes, and deliver a student experience that is accessible, responsive, and aligned with today's workforce needs. And so the keys here, and we'll talk about this more as we kind of go through, there is this idea of we are a system office who governs in some ways our campuses. But our mission in this work in strategic enrollment management is to walk alongside our institutions, to think about what does it look like if we lock arms with our institutions, understanding that each institution has its own context, its own assets, its own challenges, and do that in a critical friend type of a way to accomplish not just our goals as a system as outlined in our strategic plan, but understanding that every single one of our institutions has a mission and the students and the communities that they serve are the core of that mission. And so one of the great privileges I had was walking into an environment where we had fantastic staff. And in viewing that staff, getting to know that staff, and understanding who we are as a group of humans doing this work, we've developed 5 core values that really not only kind of describe the DNA of this team, but how are we going to accomplish the things that we hope to accomplish in the years to come. And those core values are that everything that we do will start with the student experience and will be driven by students. Thinking about that experience, what can we do to have more students be successful in our system? The next piece is going to be data-driven, not only in terms of informing our practice, but also evaluating what we're doing, what is working, what is not working, and how do we refine that over time. Campus supportive, really focus on how do we partner well with campuses. We've talked about as a team, if we are creating something without bringing in campus perspectives very early, then we have missed the mark in some way, shape, or form. And excellence. This is a team that is focused on excellence, and we will lean into that every day. But this last piece, this collaborative piece, I think is really important, and it's part of really what's already on the team, but thinking about this in terms of things that Dr. Deaton said, that Amy has said, there are aspects of the work that we do in terms of bringing together the collaboration within the system. I'll use an example, the Tennessee Coaching Project. That is an amazing outcomes at 2 campuses. I would be remiss if we weren't thinking about on our team as we are supporting advising across the campus, is that how do we take those lessons and think about that in partnership with the data and research team to bring that to scale, to bring those elements so that we are really seeing system-wide impact and that there isn't a silo where a project is happening over here and we are providing support to really the same people, that we're blending those things in a collaborative way. Additionally, my background is college access and success. I came from the Ayers Foundation. I did college access work for almost 20 years here in the state, is that we have partners across the state. And if we're able to marshal those resources and get them to align with what we are doing and driving into the direction as outlined in our strategic plan, then we can do amazing things. We firmly believe that the sum is greater than its individual parts. And if we do that well, we can accomplish great things together. So this is what the Office of Strategic Enrollment Management looks like. I think if you were to hear that term, you really think about recruitment, you think about admissions. But strategic enrollment management is so much more than that. It really is the student experience. But while they're a lead and we're nurturing that lead, we're bringing them into our system, we're looking to retain them all the way through completion. Those are all elements of what strategic enrollment management looks like. And so you'll see those kind of dots. These are the functional areas on a campus that we support in the Office of SIM. They are admissions, records, financial aid, advising, veterans affairs, accounts receivable. These are kind of the buckets. And I will say, and with great privilege, we have experts in every single one of these areas. Experts that are not just experts in our own eye. I'm going to call out a couple of folks. Jonathan Button, if you've interacted with Jonathan Button, he is a state-renowned resource in terms of being an expert in this space. It is not uncommon for our TSAC partners to reach out to Jonathan Button and say, hey, we're thinking about this financial aid policy. What does that look like when you're on your campus? How, when this sprouts legs, how will this be implemented?
I require them to.
What's that?
I require them to.
We appreciate you. It's better for all of us when you do. Regina Watkins, the individual who oversees Veterans Affairs, is just excellent at what she does. We were at TCAP Pulaski when we were getting the veterans kind of certification, and you could see the nods when I talked about the work that she does in providing support to our campuses. So we have these experts in each of these areas, and we want to leverage them very strategically. So if these are the areas that we cover, you see this underpinning, those kind of like phrases underneath those circles. Shared Service Center. We have a shared service center that I don't think we talk about a ton, but we have staff on our team that provide services for our colleges. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And I'll say it this way. You don't hear about them unless something has gone awry. And so the reason why you don't hear about them is because things are going super, super well. We also provide support in terms of the strategic enrollment management planning across the campuses, college access, organization partnerships, and I think this next piece is really important. These three buckets. So we have these technical experts. So in terms of technical support, process support, how do you, so technical expertise in terms of how do you do a thing within our SIS, our banner system, and how do you operationalize that? Process, what is the student process that then interacts with that technical piece? But there's also the policy support. And when you marry all of those things, we have the expertise within the team to provide that level of support to our college campuses. And then last but not least is Slate. You've heard us talk about Slate. That's a CRM for those of you who are new, that for higher education. Oftentimes when we talk about that tool, we talk about it in light of the college application, but it is so much more than that. And we have colleges that are doing very innovative work around leveraging that tool to enhance the student experience. And we are going to be ramping up our support of that work going forward. So the strategic direction that we have gleaned over this year of kind of looking and having conversations is that we are going to be transitioning to a consultative model of partnership with our colleges. Our role, like I said earlier, is to walk alongside our colleges. We are their strategic partners in their work to lean into their mission to serve students and to serve communities. And that second priority that Dr. Deaton talked about, we are going to be leaning into that. What do we do in terms of enhancing and improving our processes so that we really are centered on student success? So I wanted to provide a couple of examples, just so you kind of see what's happening now. We launched the TCAT college application on our team. We managed that Slate instance. Over 77,000 college applications were submitted through that tool that is being managed by our team in the Office of SIM. Our shared services team processed and reconciled $98 million in state aid and federal aid with very, very few to any audit findings because they are just excellent at what they do. And we also provide support to colleges who are having audits. So if TSAC staff are coming to do an audit at one of our institutions, we provide support in helping them prepare for that and ensuring that we are remedying any issues that do come up. We had 1,400 builds. So when you guys approve a degree program, that comes to our team and we partner with the TSAC to build that out in the banner system. Every one of those examples, when one member of our TBR staff are doing those things, that means that there's someone at a campus who is not having to do those things. And they're able to reallocate those resources to better focus on other work, to focus on student interactions. And this is part of the value that we provide from the Office of SIM. We also bring together working groups from admissions and records, financial aid, veterans affairs, TSAC student services. We've also created a similar group for advising where we're bringing together practitioners, identifying common opportunities, identifying common challenges, and then instead of 13 community colleges, for instance, spinning their own wheels to correct or to solve a problem, we're doing that collaboratively, leveraging the expertise that we have, but also setting the table for the experts who are in the field to come together and think critically about how we can improve what it is that we do. And we're doing that in a very collaborative way. So these are examples of the work that we are doing every single day. So just two quick areas of emerging work that you'll see from our team, and these are small examples among many. But we are going to be expanding the slate support that we provide our college campuses. And here we had some allocation that came from the last General Assembly. We are going to be adding staff members, 2 CRM architects, an associate who will be helping TCATS process college applications, and also someone focused on veterans to better leverage Slate to interact with those students. And so we will have someone dedicated to TCATS, expanding the work that we're doing that, really thinking about the student enterprise, similar support for our community colleges. And then second, we are going to be launching something that we're calling the Student Experience Consultations. We've done the first one of these. We had a community college reach out to us with some very specific challenges relative to financial aid and admissions. We brought our team and we pulled together some experts that are leaders in the field from other TBR institutions. And in real time, we looked at their policies, we looked at their processes. We were able to identify areas for improvement. And in doing so, we found something in terms of advising that we could fix in Banner. And so in real time, we were able to fix those things. Again, thinking about priority 2, how we lean into improving those processes, we will leverage our expertise to then fix those things in partnership with our colleges. We are going to be doing more of this work going forward. So this wasn't a mistake. This is the slide you saw earlier, but I want to highlight a couple words because I want to pivot a little bit to what we talked about in terms of dual enrollment. This idea of creating student-centered enrollment experiences is a real challenge and a real opportunity as it relates to dual enrollment specifically. We are going to be deploying a new initiative really focused on matriculating those dual enrolled students. In June, Dr. Deaton spoke about kind of the data profile of dual enrolled students. So we have had a tremendous increase in the number of those students, almost 140% increase over the last decade. 1 in 3 TBR students is a dual enrolled students. Those students are very successful. 90% of our community college students successfully complete the courses that they're taking. Of our TCAT dual enrolled students, they complete almost 20% of a credential while still in high school. But there's some opportunity. 67% of our dual enrolled students who go to a TCAT do not enroll in higher education anywhere after they finish high school. 30% of our community college dual enrolled students do not enroll, and we're not talking about just at TBR institutions, at any institutions. So there's an opportunity. So let me go to my college access brain, is that these are students in high school who've gone through a course, a college course, and they have an asset. They have earned something that it really has some real power to it, right? They have college credit, and they're not taking full advantage of the thing that they have earned. And there lies an opportunity not only for us as a system and for our institutions, but for the students that we serve. So we are looking to move into a space where we're thinking about what does dual enrollment exposure look like, where we can turn that into, dual enrollment exposure, turning that into enrollment, closing gaps, aligning with TBR strategic goals around student success and workforce development. And so we're really thinking about that in 3 specific areas. We want to ease the transition into college after high school. We want to strengthen students' advising and clarity of credit pathways. Again, this idea, I have, let's say, 2 courses worth of things. What does that mean in terms of the glide slope of where I go next? We want to simplify the dual enrollment grant and the enrollment processes for our institutions, so administrative burden, but also for our students and families. What does it look like to enroll in dual enrollment, and how do we make that an easier process? So our strategy and what we are going to be doing is that and I'm thinking about this in light of the coaching initiative and other things that we have done, is that we are going to design interventions that move the needle in this space. We are going to test those interventions, and we're looking to scale the interventions that we identify. And here's kind of unpacking that, what that's going to look like. We are going to be partnering within the system with folks on our data team, with our great colleagues in academic affairs who do great work in this space, but also there's great work happening at THEC in this space. TDOE is doing work relative to dual enrollment. We want to pull together representatives from our colleges, TCATs, and community colleges, our college access organizations, and also representatives from our K-12 folks, like the LEAs, the high schools that we serve. We are then going to bring that group together to norm around what our expectations are, the problems that we're hoping to solve, and then what we're going to do is co-create some interventions to move the needle across some of these metrics. And when I say an intervention, we're not talking about is like, it would be great if we did more marketing and communications. That's not what I'm talking about. It's like, yes, we want to do those things, but what are the targeted messages? How are we going to deliver that message? Let me give just an idea. I don't want to preempt the group, but what would it look like if a high school senior was finishing up their time in dual enrollment and there was a sit-down meeting where we did a degree audit with that student and said, here's where you are, and this is where you can go. You are this far away from getting that degree. And also there's a monetary thing. You've already saved X number of dollars relative to that pursuit. And then how do we message that and then measure the impact of those interventions? So we're going to come together, we're going to design interventions, we are going to then target pilot colleges along with high schools. We are going to partner with the data team to then research those interventions. But the intent here isn't just to say, wow, these are great practices, you guys should all do this. It is to then toolkit and package those things in ways that are highly scalable. I think about the work that I was able to do when I was at TEC around FAFSA completion. The folks who do this work are very busy, and we don't need folks recreating the wheel. How can we make tools so that it's off-the-shelf ready but adaptable in such a way that it can represent and appreciate the variety of contexts that each of our colleges have? And that's the work that we are going to be doing relative to this dual enrollment work. So you'll see a timeline here. I won't read through this, but we're going to start convening in the fall. We're going to design those interventions over the spring, the winter and spring. We will then start identifying into the fall, identifying the colleges, test those things, and then do some research. There's a broad kind of timeline here because some of those interventions are going to be leading, some of them will be lagging. So some of them will be relative to enrollment in higher education. You can get that a little bit more quickly, but then when we're talking about persistence and completion, those will take a little bit more time. So with that, what questions can I answer, both about the Office of SIM and some of the work that we hope to do with dual enrollment?
Any questions?
Yeah,
Regent
I don't
Branson.
really have any questions. I'm just absolutely blown away by the amount of data that we have here. And the great news is it's telling a wonderful story that helps inform where we need to go in 2035. But kudos to whoever's gathering all this data because it is amazing. It really is.
Well, let me just say, that's not me. It's these folks over here. And I will say, as someone who is relatively new here, our data shop is second to none in this state. And it is a great asset of our organization.
It's a huge asset, and I'm glad I'm sitting on this board now because there's so many of these kinds of groups that you join that you just don't have the data like this, but the data is so robust that it makes it very exciting.
And I will add, a lot of that data is actually open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
They have the data dashboards that they have built, and I'm the president at my school will tell you, I'm on there, if not every day, every other day, looking at the dashboard, seeing, what's going on and everything. So it is available to anybody that would like to look at it.
Christy, you're having the same reaction I did 2 years ago when I joined this board, because from an economic development perspective, there's data here that we need to disseminate out more to companies that are looking at Jackson, but it's phenomenal. Your team does a great job, all of you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair. Just
Yes,
one question.
please.
You rattled off numbers so fast. I'm
Sorry.
not sure if I have it right.
Yes.
But it was something like 67% that don't.
So at our community colleges, students who are doing dual enrollment at community colleges, 30% of them do not enroll immediately following their high school graduation. That number is 67% for TCAT students. So high school students who are enrolled at TCATs. lots of opportunity in that space.
Right. And it seems strange to me for some reason that number is so different for both of those. I'm not sure I understand why. This 30s, whatever.
There's a lot to unpack there, and there's a lot to unpack there that isn't necessarily just within our kind of like piece of the puzzle. There's a lot in terms of higher K-12 policy that drives some of these numbers, so it's a complex thing. But that's some of the things that we're looking to uncover in these interventions is like, what can we do to really like identify what the heart of that is and how we move the needle in a positive direction.
Yeah, because I was thinking you really can't ask the people that aren't there why they didn't come. That's a little hard to do. But just like an exit interview or something like that, where they take a survey before they exit the program to say, what are the chances you would continue and what would impede you, or something like that. And I'm sure y'all have already thought about that. So
Well, and can I offer in terms of an intervention is that, we talk about summer melt, for instance.
Yeah.
I think one of the most effective ways of getting rid of summer melt is getting rid of a summer.
Yes.
And so it's thinking of that way is like, what can we do to like, instead of it being like, we have a very clear set of paths, instead of it just being, I'm in a dual enrollment course and then I'm in kind of the general population in terms of students who are considering my next step. We have very strategic pathways that bring a student from where they are to where we'd like to see them go.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Troy, thank you very much. If there are not any other comments, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And now for a presentation on student success and strategic partnerships, I'd like to call on Vice Chancellor Heidi Lemming.
All right, buckle up. I'm going to go through a lot of information really fast. It's my pleasure to present some highlights of our work in the Office of Student Success during the past year in particular. Oops, back the wrong way. We've been revisioning as an office what it really means to do our work, and the team took some time to think about that. And one of the things that I'll mention is that we're all on board with the idea that our core mission daily, our belief, is to support our campuses in fostering a sense of well-being, connection, and learning for faculty, staff, and students. And that encourages engagement and leadership in a global society. Today, I'm going to briefly highlight the ways our grant-making efforts are helping to meet these goals, and specifically 2 of our centers that are new to the operation. Again, I'm going to focus on the 2 centers that are listed on the screen, but I know that we've got a lot of new board members. I just want to quickly highlight that we have a fuller scope of work that I'm not going to talk about today. Specifically in the middle of your screen, you're going to see items that are under that larger umbrella of student engagement and support. Some of you heard me give a Skills USA report already, and that it falls under that bucket. We do have a dedicated staff team who works with our schools directly on the efforts in student supports and Perkins, and I'm not going to speak to that, but I hope I can highlight that at a future meeting. Here we go. So first I want to talk about our grant-making efforts because this really aligns with our Center for Teaching and Innovation. We administer grants in 3 larger buckets to not only TBR institutions, but the LGIs. You can see a summary of those larger buckets here on the screen. In your meeting materials, you have a direct link to the data dashboards that we've developed this year. I'm going to share with you today just a few of the data points, but you can also access those on your own in time and dig a little bit deeper. Those in the audience can also use the QR code on the screen. Josh Kohler in our office has been building these dashboards. Know that we're going to continue to add to these dashboards in the coming months, but they are available for you currently to do deeper dives. So first I wanted to talk about our competitive grants. In the last fiscal year, you can see the 4 focus areas for our competitive grants on this slide. Total number of dollars spent, total number of awards given in each category are also listed. For this current fiscal year, the categories have changed to 3 focus areas centered on student leadership, teaching and learning, and student success programming. As we move forward, the dashboard will reflect those new competitive grant categories. The second bucket of funding is our block grants. This is an example from the dashboard on how our institutions are using block grants during the last fiscal year. Block grants are a lump sum that the institutions receive from us based on their FTE from the previous year. So it does adjust annually. Again, we give block grants to all TBR institutions as well as the LGIs, and each institution is required to submit a plan and report to our office annually for monitoring to ensure the funds are spent in the designated areas.
Dark blue bars indicate the amount of funds that went towards scholarships or completion grants at our community colleges. The red indicates funds that went towards retention efforts. And the light blue shows the amount of funds that went to programmatic efforts that include professional learning activities. The total amounts for each category are noted on the left side of the screen, with a little more than $4 million expended in total across all three categories last year. This is just our community colleges, and almost half of those funds are being used for student scholarships and completion grants. You can use this dashboard to see a similar breakdown for our TCATs and LGIs, and so you can look at it also by individual institutions as well to see how they're using their funds. In the coming year, we intend to do a deeper dive specifically on the completion grants to see how those are impacting student retention. On the dashboard, you also see a sector comparison on how funds are spent between the LGIs, TCATs, and community colleges. We awarded over 3,000 student scholarships or completion grants out of these funds last year. That's almost 75% of the total block grants that are being used in this manner, which is a little more than $8.7 million. There we go. The third bucket where we administer funds is our professional learning and program grants. There are specific programs with one-time funding in support of a particular innovation. You can see the buckets of where the funds were invested in the last fiscal year on this slide. The Reimagine the Community College is probably the one you've heard the most about in previous meetings. That grant will continue for one more additional year. It had an investment over $2 million at 4 colleges. The new grants that we awarded this past year, again, will be updated on this dashboard moving forward. If you want to know more about any of those specific grants, it is up now that you can click on that and learn more about each one in particular. I also want to mention that we administer other innovation grants out of our office outside of our Student Success and Innovation Fund. On the screen, you can see that we fund several things through Perkins, which is federal grant funding, as well as philanthropic organizations. So here's 2 specifically that Perkins is using that are specific to AI innovations. We also have an Ascendium grant. That's our second grant. We are in the final year of funding for that. It supports our efforts to sustain and scale high-impact practices and learning mindsets. The overarching goal of this work was to make sure that all of our academic pathways have high-impact practices that students can engage in. The grant funds development of a resource repository that faculty use, additional data collection, and research on impact. We work with the University of Virginia's Motivate Lab on this mindset resource repository. So far, faculty have expressed a lot of enthusiasm for this because they're looking for ready-to-use templates and user guides for implementing these research-backed teaching principles. So that leads me to talk about the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning because they are very interconnected. Last year, we brought on Dr. Marla Cartwright to lead our center's efforts. Everything we do within the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning supports Strategic Priority 3 of the newly revised strategic plan, namely, collaborate within the system and with partners to maximize our resources. It also supports priority number 2 around improving the college process. In support of the overall mission of the Office of Student Success, the center provides faculty learning and support in order to improve not only the teaching experience, but the learning experience for students. We leverage experience, knowledge, and skill sets, both internally and externally, to design and deliver trainings for faculty and staff. On the CITL dashboard that's been developed, you can do a deeper dive on the impact of our trainings in these 3 areas. Again, it's also linked in your meeting materials. I'm just going to highlight 2 quick data points. The first is on the TCAT faculty CITL efforts under the leadership of Dr. Arita Summers. Both the orientation program and institute have seen very positive first-year results. We're tracked on this dashboard as illustrated here. We've also called out 2 direct quotes from faculty who participated in the program. They say it's not only supportive and educational, but also provide a great opportunity for collaboration among TCAT faculty to get them out on the right foot. The TCAT New Faculty Institute is an in-person training with new faculty, and the orientation is an online self-paced course that supplements the institute. Both provide new faculty with foundational concepts to assist from their transition working in industry to now teaching in the classroom. During the 24-25 academic year, we had 186 faculty that participated with an 88.2% completion rate. So offered in tandem, this pair of professional development opportunities really enables our faculty to get the skills they need to be effective in the classroom. On our HIP dashboard, again, we're going to have more data that'll be coming as we build these out, but I wanted to highlight for our new board members, this has been going on for about 10 years. We've been recognized nationally for our collection of data in this. It is feeding into the learner record that is launching this year at all of our colleges, the TBR Cred. But you can see here the growth of student participation through our high impact practice work as a system, and some shout outs to some particular schools on this slide who are really making great strides in this space. We do a Monday Minute newsletter. It's weekly. The goal is to share out with everyone what we're offering for professional development, such as conferences, synchronous and asynchronous trainings, and special topics like AI. To date, Dr. Cartwright has sent out 43 editions with over 6,000 total views and an average open rate of 75%. For comparison, an average email with the same content only has a 30% open rate. So we are very excited that people are reading our newsletter. In addition, the Formalized Center provides a robust suite of services to CTL directors across the system, both individually as a group. We have monthly meetings, one-on-one consultations, and we're also doing special events like the upcoming biannual conference that we'll host later in October, the Degrees of Success Conference. And that is also a partnership with our LGIs. Through our in-house learning management system, we're building a series of trainings for faculty and staff. This is the list of the trainings that we've developed so far. For TCATs, it's centralized. For community colleges, they can upload these trainings to their own individual systems. Already in the last year, the team has worked collaboratively with other offices to build 9 courses, 3 nearing completion, and we have 25 already in the queue for development. What you should expect from us in the next month or so, we have an advisory board that's going to start meeting. It has wide representation from our colleges, regions, roles, and that helps us to inform our work, meet the needs of the campuses and what they're looking for training. And for TCAT and system office learners, they can actually go to the TBR portal page. One click, they can get to the training, and we're going to be working with HR in the coming year to also think about how other professional learning courses can be linked there. So with that, I will pause and see if there's any questions on the Center for Teaching and Learning, and if not, I'll just keep on rolling.
Keep rolling.
Okay. So one of the things that's been really exciting that I mentioned at a previous board meeting is that we were moving the Tensis operation that was previously housed at Pellissippi State to the system office. That work started with Tracy Bradley as executive director moving to our office in January of this year. That was to ensure that we had seamlessness in the student experience over the summer as they were going abroad. The rest of the operations and staff officially moved on July 1st, and we've got some of them here in the front row with us today. This slide illustrates the full scope of work we hope the center will be responsible for moving forward with all of our institutions. One of the center's focuses moving forward will be on career readiness and preparing our students for the global workforce. I know a lot of you are new to this work. Particularly, some of you might not know that we do study abroad. So I just want to take a minute to help you understand why this is so important for our TCATs and our community colleges. Lots of research has been done nationally with employers. There's one study there on the slide that you can read, but all of them indicate that study abroad provides certain skills to our students that's putting them ahead of their peers in the job search process. For example, just yesterday, a national study by Education Abroad was released, and it showed that graduates with a study abroad experience earn, on average, about $4,100 more per year at the start of their careers. This can be a whole separate presentation, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but you should know TBR is on the cutting edge of this work, particularly as we look at what this looks like for our TCATs. For example, Tracy Bradley was invited to be part of a global career development think tank. This exclusive invitation-only gathering will convene hand-selected leaders from career development, education abroad, ed tech, and global employers in a conversation about future and the visioning of a framework for student success in global workforce. Tracy also serves as the board chair for the Forum. That's the National Professional Organization for Study Abroad. It's worth noting that she's talking about how to include Tennessee's community colleges in future salary studies done by the association, and that the national conference will be hosted in Nashville this spring to highlight Tennessee's work in this space. So again, our intention is that we will build out data dashboards for our Center for Global Innovation as well. Here are the focus areas where you can dig deeper into the data. But I always love the student stories. So I'm going to highlight a student because they're very powerful in terms of, when we travel with students, we're able to see life-changing experiences happen in real time. Iana is a Jackson State student who traveled on the Ecuador and Galapagos program last academic year. In her quote, you will see she mentions how study abroad submerged her, and evidently quite literally as evidenced by the photo, into her major and helped her identify a passion for future research efforts. Iana is just one of the 424 students that participated last year while the consortium was still under Pelisipi's leadership. The dashboard will show historical data to show growth over time, as well as how the international fee is a major contributor to making this experience financially viable for our students. This past year, the consortium offered 54 different credit-bearing courses. You can see which schools are really investing in recruiting students to participate on this slide. Now at TBR, we expect that with our centralized efforts and our focus with the LGIs, particularly in the transfer pathways, that this number will only continue to grow, and also with TCATs. I just want to give a shout out to two of our institutions who are ranked nationally for 2024 for the number of students they sent abroad. Tracy worked with IEE this last year to submit over the summer the community college data. So now I think next year you're going to see even more of our institutions show up in that national report. We'll do the same for study abroad for 25-26 and international student enrollment. One of the primary ways that we encourage administrators and faculty to consider building study abroad into the curriculum is through our professional development offerings. Again, this connects with the mission of the Teaching and Learning Center as well. Last year, there were 4 professional development opportunities. 2 were open to all TBR institutions, and 2 in the spring that were specific to institutions who have a particular interest or a set of colleges that they wanted to explore. You can see we've been leaning into the CTE space specifically with the intention of future growth at our TCATs. So this gets to the exciting part about what is coming soon. We have 2 TCAT pilots that are in the planning stages. We've been meeting with TCAT presidents already who are interested in getting some momentum around Germany with a focus on automotive and industrial maintenance for the fall of 2026, and Japan with a focus on graphic design and automotive in summer of 2027. We've already started conversations with several universities also interested in being part of this consortium. They'll probably come on board this year. And I have interest from some private post-secondary institutions as well. And so we were talking with Takua about the possibility of opening this up to the private institutions in the state of Tennessee. Our next professional development will be focused on the Italian marble industry and connections to the 8 tile companies located in Tennessee. And we have several courses that we've been offering in Italy already, general education courses, so we have a good understanding of the logistical partners to make this feasible. The administrative program will get our faculty and presidents thinking about how to build study abroad into their existing courses. I'm going to wrap up with one final student quote, in case you haven't been sold yet on why we should be doing study abroad. This is Lissandro, a Pelisipi State student who participated in the South Korea program. His testimonial highlights the focus on the global workforce and how the study abroad experience has motivated him to consider working internationally or with a global company in the future. This is our goal for all students, in making them feel more comfortable with their place in the global workforce and with foreign investors, specifically here in the state of Tennessee. And while this is my last slide, I've been told that I need to mention one other thing that's in your meeting materials. You should have a flyer for our Off the Vice Chancellor's Shelf podcast series, which launched last Thursday. I personally think it's my best one yet. And 2 very important people were interviewed for the podcast series. And I wanted to publicly thank Vice Chair Reynolds and former Regent Danny Varlin, who did sit and talk with me for some time to do an interview. Their interviews will be released later this fall. I hope you will check it out. But again, thank you for taking time to support the podcast. I'll take questions.
It's a good thing you didn't do Danny and me together. We'd still be sitting there.
Any questions?
I just want to make a comment on the Global Studies Initiative. There's so many things that we do and we do exceptionally well, and it is really exciting to see, what Pelisipi State has built, and now we can leverage for the rest of the system. It's an it's incredibly exciting work. And do you see any barriers to getting the entire system on board with prioritizing some investments in this space, or is this something that everybody is jumping?
I am very happy. We've got a really good group of TCAP presidents who have done a couple of our administrative programs recently, and they are meeting with us. They are very passionate and supportive of the work. I'm very excited. I think that is going to be just huge. They're not very, I don't know of any other state system in the country that is doing that work. And we're going to be going to a global conference in Costa Rica later this fall. And I mean, it's specifically because we're being looked at, even by universities, about how we offer, outside the state, this opportunity. For our community colleges, they've been doing it for a while. I think it's just a matter of, sometimes leadership, where they put their emphasis on a particular high impact practice. We've not told them they have to do study abroad. It's their choice. So that's why you see some schools a little bit further along with that. But I think now that we're centralizing it and really can give equal attention to all the schools, I expect it to grow.
It's next level.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Regent DeWitt. Any other questions? Thank you. Heidi? Russ, I have a question for you, Dr. Deaton. Either this is the most efficient team in the history of teams, or you never allow them a day off. I don't know which one it is. But,
Both can be true.
okay, at the same time. Well done. So if there's no further business to come before the committee, hearing none, the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life for the Tennessee Board of Regents stands adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well done. And I'm reminded of the word you used, specific to Amy, but it's true for all of these presentations. There's a lot of passion behind this, as you said earlier. So absolutely, absolutely. Before we head into personnel and compensation, Mariah has informed me that Commissioner Reynolds has joined in the meeting, and we need to confirm her attendance and ask the 2 questions.
Commissioner Reynolds, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you confirm that you can hear and speak with us and that you're alone in the room?
Yes to both.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Reynolds. So we were obviously talking about our partnerships with the Department of Education in that last session. So I hope you heard most of that, but thank you to you and your team for the good work with us.
Absolutely. TBR has been an incredible partner, as has THEC. I think we're going to get a lot of good things done. So thank you.
Thank you. And also, Regent Powers, I neglected to mention earlier, Miles Burdine will be with us later today. I gave him an excused absence because he had the governor up in Kingsport for the tourism conference today. So since they were hosting, I said, by all means, stay up there, and then we'll look forward to having him with us tonight. So with that, Madam Chair, are you ready for your committee?
Let's roll.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm calling the Committee on Personnel and Compensation to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Regent Burdine, Chair Lady Powers,
Present.
Regent Stevenson, and Regent White.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. As we have a quorum, we will proceed. We have 2 items, and the lady of the hour is already up there. So without further ado, Chancellor Reed, if you will.
Thank you,
The presentation on faculty emeriti.
Great. Thank you, Regent Powers, Madam Chair Reynolds, Chancellor, and of course, members of the board. We're always pleased to do this part of our presentation where we highlight the excellence of our faculty with our Faculty Emeritus Awards. Just as background for you all, college presidents nominate these candidates based on their distinguished service to the colleges, and it is their decision, although they may offer input from other people at the college and confer with others. There is no specific criteria to be awarded this emeritus, but it's historically based on length of service, significant contribution, outstanding academic achievement, and exceptional embodiment of institutional service. Non-monetary benefits are provided at the president's discretion, which may include office space, parking, library privileges, free admission to arts and athletic events, or an ID card with their honorary title. And again, nominations are reviewed by my office and then forwarded to the chancellor, and it comes to you for your approval. So let's meet these fantastic folks who have impacted Tennesseans across the state. Our first faculty emeritus candidate is Susan Osborne. She's Associate Professor of Health Information Management at Dyersburg State Community College, serving from 1996 to 2024. Our next one is Charles Clare, Master Instructor of Automotive Technology, TCAT Jacksboro, from 2005 to 2025. We also have Louise Dixon, Professor of English and Humanities at Northeast State Community College, who has served from 2006 to 2024. We have Bethany Choate, Instructor of Patient Care Technology at TCAT Northwest, from 2004 to 2022. Regent Powers, these are some exceptional faculty that we bring before the board today for you all's review and approval to receive this honorary designation.
I appreciate that, Dr. Reed, and do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. Thank you, since we only have two. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you all showed up. On this one, I think we're just doing this on a voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. So motion carries. Thank you so much. And item 2 is the executive incentive payments. And that will be Dr. Fox.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members and members of the board. The final agenda item is executive incentive payments. The executive performance incentive plan was approved at the June 2013 board meeting. Sorry, did I go the wrong? Oops, I'm going way. All the wrong way. Okay. Oh, I don't know where. Okay, thanks. I'm like, I don't know where the slide is. Okay, thank you. The executive performance incentive plan was approved at the June 2013 board meeting. It was created at the request of board members to address the gap between the average market salaries for the presidents and the chancellor and the current compensation levels for these officials. The plan provides an opportunity for leaders to earn up to 10% of market value of their respective position on an annual basis based on institutional and individual performance. 85% of the 10% is metric-based and 15% of the 10% is discretionary-based. The incentive payment does not add to the base salary for the position and is recalculated each year based on established performance metrics. Participants in the plan include the presidents of our community colleges, the presidents of our TCATs, and our chancellor. A separate attachment for the TCAT presidents and the chancellor with individual amounts were included in your materials in advance of this meeting. You may recall that the community college presidents were presented and approved at the June 2025 board meeting, but due to data not being available at that time, I was unable to present the TCAT presidents and the chancellor. So those are being presented to you today for your consideration. Chair Powers, this completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions if needed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fox. And do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, and second. Thank you so much. On this, we are going to need a roll call vote. With that, Mariah.
Chair Lady Powers.
Present. Or, I'm sorry, yes. I'm present also.
Regent Stevenson.
Aye.
And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. If there is no other business coming before the Personnel and Compensation Committee, hearing none, I will hand it back to you. Thank you so much.
You are, speaking of models of efficiency, you always are in running your personnel and compensation meetings, so thank you. Regent George unfortunately had a last minute complication, so he is not able to join us today. I'll step in here for this one time as the interim chair, I suppose, or acting chair is a better word, of the Committee on Workforce Development. So with that, Mariah, would you once again call the roll?
Regent George, Regent Branscombe.
Here.
Regent Powers.
Here.
Regent Spurgeon.
Here.
And Regent Stevenson.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you all very much. Today we have one item, and that's a report from Executive Director Jeff Sisk from our Center for Workforce Development with an update for us.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. Chancellor Tidings, members of the Workforce Committee and other regents. As a reminder, the Workforce Development Committee meets twice a year. at your June and your September board meetings. Next slide, please, Carol. Thank you. Here's the agenda for today's meeting. We're going to talk about the 24-25 THEC reporting cycle for the community colleges workforce hours. That's the second item. I'll give you some preliminary numbers. Actually, these are fairly solid numbers based on an email I got about 15 minutes ago. And a staff update for the Center for Workforce Development. So pending any questions on the agenda there, Vice Chair Reynolds, can we proceed? Good?
Yes, sir. Move
Thank
on.
you. Next slide, please. Here's a review of the THEC workforce hours reporting cycle. Just as a reminder, and maybe for the new regents, this may be fairly new, the Complete College Tennessee Act of 2010 requires that the Tennessee public community colleges and universities be funded using a comprehensive outcomes-based funding formula. The TCATs are in a funding formula, but it's not really performance-based per se. But since its inception, this formula has included a workforce training metric at the community colleges to recognize the importance of supporting local workforce development. Institutions provide programs and activities to local businesses, industry partners, community members to increase occupational, technical, and soft skills in the workplace. These workforce training activities are reported to the Center for Workforce Development and then on to THEC annually. So here's that reporting timeline. And notice where we are now. We're in the campus review and appeal week. So it's an iterative review process been going on for a little over a month now. It's an incredibly busy time right now for the workforce offices at our colleges. It's not only they're working to support their business and industry and students upgrade skills like they always do, they have to quickly respond to THEC audit requests for further demonstrate why hours should end up on the report. 7 of the community colleges are currently transitioning to a common LMS software to track all of this data. They've done fantastic work during this time. Also doing a fantastic job during this time, I'd like to recognize Tracy Cordum out of my office. Tracy, please stand. Thank you, because all of these workforce hours reports go through Tracy. And she vets everything, and then she tells me, is it good or not? No, but we're fortunate to have Tracy in our office. She worked 26 years at Nashville State's Workforce Office, and we, like we do at TBR, we identify campus talent, and then we bring them up to work with us. So thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you. An important caveat on the workforce training report: for outcomes-based funding formula purposes, these training activities cannot carry institutional credit. They can't be for-credit activities. There's no double dipping in the outcomes-based funding formula. So that's where we are. Carol, next slide, please. So here's the preliminary numbers as of 15 minutes ago. Once THEC finalizes the approved workforce hours, we get done with the review process, campus appeals. These numbers will be solid, and I'll distribute it to the workforce committee. I want to bring to your attention a couple of data points on this slide in the highlighted column in particular. The TCAT workforce hours have nearly tripled, and that's for a couple of reasons. A change in reporting protocol for TCAT hours and corrections educational initiative training. So let me give you some context there. Historically, this committee and the board have only received reports on TCAT hours that were coded in Banner as a special industry training project. That code indicated that the training activity was for a specific company and their employees, and there was a contract training element there. The on-the-ground reality is, though, is our TCATs do all sorts of workforce training activities outside of the construct of a special industry training contractual agreement. It's kind of a legacy data or program code going back. So I used it 29 years ago when I taught in the TCATs as well. So for an example, IV therapy is a course that we teach a lot at the TCATs for our recent LPN grads, and some RNs come in for this particular certification. For those folks who are going to, they need the skill sets needed to work in acute care hospitals, alternate site care settings, home health, things like that. That is one of those courses. We code them as supplemental courses and not special industry training courses. So looked at over the last few months, thought that we needed to include this and present it to the committee and to the board. Talked with Dr. McCormick and the chancellor about this, and they agreed. So I wanted to make sure that we included that. THEC always gets everything from TBR on the TCAS, whether it's preparatory, supplemental, special industry, they always get it, but you haven't always been presented that. And so you're going to start getting those now. This also goes into the state P20 system once it goes to THEC, so it's accessible to other agencies. We're just now presenting it to the board. And philosophically, going back to my TCAP president roots, we do this for the community colleges. They get to report all that. The TCAT should be able to report out all of that as well. You need to be aware of that. So the second reason is we have 7 TCATs who are delivering training to incarcerated individuals in state prisons. These prison programs are funded by the Department of Corrections via funding from the Governor's Correctional Education Initiative, we say CEI, at the board office there. For various reasons, speed to market to stand up the program. There are no student financial aid considerations. The TCATs are delivering this in a non-credit environment. We code it as supplemental as well. So making that change allows us to report out those workforce hours delivered in the CEI programs. And so, for example, this past year, those 7 TCATs delivered 242,700 training hours to 565 incarcerated individuals via the CEI program. So we're incredibly proud of that. Also on here, you'll note that the community colleges as a cohort increased their workforce training hours by 15% this year as compared to last year. They delivered 1,357,991 hours. That was up from a little over 1.8 million the previous year. So the community college and the TCAT's combined preliminary workforce hours delivered was 2,035,016 hours. Is the first time. This is as high as we've ever done. Changed to reporting protocol, but this thing was going on anyway. And also for reference that isn't on this slide, the head count served in the workforce, both on the community colleges and the TCATs for workforce, was a little over 60,000 head count in our non-credit space this past year. Even without the change in the reporting protocol for the TCATs, they still would have been up 5%. Generally, during this THEC review week, and Regent Gentile knows this better than most, we would have reduced probably 3 to 4% that wouldn't pass muster, would audit at THEC. 5 years ago, that number was like 30%. So that number has dropped dramatically for a couple of reasons. One is, I've already pointed out, Tracy Cordham. But 2, THEC has done a great job of engaging with our workforce leads at our colleges to talk through the formula process. What's acceptable hours? Let's talk through that. So it's a great two-way communication there. So Julia Arns Hoffman, Russell Van Zomeren, fantastic to work with. Doug Cullum is fantastic to work with. He's the auditor at THEC who reviews all of this. So cited numbers there. Just literally, I was sitting there on my phone. Tracy nudged me and said, hey, check your email. We got an update from THEC. So our rejection rate this time dropped to 0.14%. And that's due to these training sessions that we have. We're incredibly excited about that. Of that 2 million, over 2 million hours were reported, only about 1,800 of those are kind of up in the air whether they will count or not. So I'm incredibly excited about that. We will stay above the 2 million hour mark this year. Okay, I'm going to pause there, Vice Chair Reynolds, in case there's any questions on this slide.
Anyone have anything?
One quick.
Oh, Regent Kastner.
Yes, sir.
Your last column, your 3-year change, if I'm reading that right, I think you're dividing 24-25 by 22-23, which to me sounds like a 2-year change.
I'll have to go back and double check the math.
I think you're
on
actually
that.
a lot better than what that last.
Yeah, I would double check that math. For the record, I did a qualitative dissertation, not quantitative, so I'm not great with numbers.
No, it's great results either way. I think
Absolutely.
you're
I love to
better
tell
than
stories. I hate numbers, but I'm excited about these numbers, though. But I will absolutely double check that when I go sit down. Thank you, sir.
That's why we have a corporate CFO on this board. Oh, what an eye. Go
Awesome.
ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. Next slide, please. I want to remind you about the TBR workforce convening that we did back in April of 2024. We had facilitated roundtable discussions with industry leaders from prioritized industry sectors. Governor Lee was there. He spoke to the group. The outcomes, the data were analyzed by Russ's data and policy shop, and out of that, we had 3 initial recommendations. So Executive Vice Chancellor Kim McCormick, Executive Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton authored a state appropriation request entitled Creating a Multi-Generational Workforce Pipeline, which actually ended up being partially funded, and some of those ideas were funded in different state agencies. We've talked about TN Works as the governor's latest workforce development initiative, so elements of that request kind of landed in other state agencies as well. So we're a part of that. We received $2.3 million in recurring funds for the Center for Workforce Development, which we affectionately call the Workforce Pipeline Funds. And from that, we're addressing these 3 recommendations. You'll see the first one is the cross-agency working group of representatives from TBR, ECD. Our group from TBR, we're calling them Workforce Talent Pipeline Strategists. We'll have 1 in each grand division. I will introduce them in just a minute. Creating a data infrastructure necessary to support the growth of non-credit. I alluded to this earlier. All of our colleges are going to have a common LMS on the workforce side. We've got 7 coming on board. We already had 6 there. That's costing us about $250,000 this year to make that happen. And the third, invest in marketing and communication. We've added other staff outside of the Center for Workforce Development to market the technical programs that we do at the TCATs and the community college AAS programs, as well as those workforce initiatives that we do. So we're excited about this. Next slide, please. So from that, you'll see a new staff update directly within the Center for Workforce Development. Here's our new org chart. Obviously, we fall in the External Affairs Division under the leadership of Dr. Kim McCormick. I'd like to introduce Dr. Keisha Thomas. Dr. Thomas we hired her identifying talent at a campus from Chat State, came in, and she is our Director of Training Operations. And reporting to Keisha will be our Regional Workforce Strategist, Ryan Griffin, who's our West Tennessee Strategist, who we call the mayor. He's also the mayor of McKenzie, Tennessee. And Lacey Kozan. Lacey is going to be our Middle Tennessee rep. Again, identify talent and a campus and bring them to TBR as well. Our East position is still vacant. It's a current open position. So if you know of anyone who might be interested, point them to the TBR HR website for open positions. Next slide. And with that, Vice Chair Reynolds, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to tackle any questions as long as there's no math involved.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Sisk? Well, welcome to Dr. Thomas and Ryan and Lacey. Thank you. And since we're sitting in East Tennessee today, perhaps we can spread the word here with our colleagues to help us on that vacant position.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Jeff. Is there any further business to come before this committee after hearing this robust report? Hearing none, that completes our work for today. So the Committee on Workforce Development stands adjourned.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. All right, you guys, I've got double duty here today. With our changes and with Regent Varlin's retirement, so to speak, from our board, I'm still with Chancellor working on some committee vacancies, and I thank our new regents for the roles that they have assumed. And one of those happens to be chair of the External Affairs Committee, which we are still working on. So, but with that, and with your permission, I will step in as interim chair of External Affairs today. So with that, Mariah, once again, would you call the roll?
Regent DeWitt. Regent Harrell.
Here.
Regent Harriman.
Here, sorry.
Regent Powers.
Here.
Chair Lady Reynolds.
Here.
Regent Spurgeon.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Terrific, thank you. Well, and speaking of passion once again, our very own Chris Perkins, who of course has added athletics to his portfolio in addition to his strategic advancement responsibility, is going to come up and talk to us about some exciting things happening in the world of athletics in our system.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chancellor, and the members of the committee and all the regents. I have with me Dr. Chris Whaley at my trustee side, who is the chair of the President's Athletic Committee. So I was going to let him speak, if you don't mind, very quickly, and then I'll move into my presentation.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, committee members, Chancellor, members of the board. Being in this part of the state, particularly this time of the year, makes one think of athletics. And I was opening the door for you, Chancellor. It just happened last week. I thought if you, no, okay. Okay, all right, I understand. I understand, respect you for that. Just want to open the door. You know, and when you go on to any of our university campuses, there is a natural and very positive thought and association between those university campuses and their athletic programs, and that's wonderful. What we at the Tennessee Community College Athletic Association would like everyone to know is that all of the great student athletes are not exclusively at the universities, that we have incredible student athletes on our campuses. On 11, in fact, of our 13 community college campuses, we have student athletics that Vice Chancellor Perkins is going to share with you more about in just a moment. I just wanted to let you know that and there are all kinds of stories that each of these presidents could share just for Roane State, just some thought of the level that we're talking about. Tennessee, the state of Tennessee's first national champion women's basketball team did not come from the nearby university. It came from Roane State Community College in 1984, and a member of that team was Teresa Duncan, who is now working, of course, with this board directly. We also have a number of folks who have come through our doors. Think about legendary coach Bernadette Maddox, who played for Roane State and then went on to play at the University of Georgia, and then became assistant coach with Rick Pitino at Kentucky, and then became the head women's basketball coach at the University of Kentucky. Then on to the WNBA where she coached. She played for a gentleman named Andy Landers, who coached at Roane State, who then went on to the University of Georgia, who is now in the Hall of Fame, a four-time Coach of the Year. So, and there again, each of these presidents could share similar stories. Not all of our student athletes will attain to that level, and not all of them are striving to. But what I will tell you is that, number one, they are incredible athletes. So many folks who come to our games and matches, and they are surprised, I think, at the level of competition that they say, and they say, this is incredible, this is exciting. And yes, these are college-level athletes, and they are at the top of their game. But not only their athletic prowess, these are some of the best students that we have on our campuses. Their progression rate, their completion rate, their graduation rate, all of their success metrics are higher as a category than our other student populations. So they are among the best students that we get. So any stereotype that might be made that these are students that you have to drag along, that is absolutely untrue as a category. They are some of our very best. Again, Chris is going to share some information about the number of our All-Americans that we have, academic All-Americans. So the other thing that I would share is that many of these students are our students because they are our student athletes. And because they have that opportunity to play, they come and they are full-time students with us, which helps obviously with enrollment and FTE and things of that nature, which are very important. So I'm pleased to serve again alongside the presidents of the 11 community colleges who have student athletics. We have an incredible group of athletic directors at each of the institutions who work with our commissioner, Mike Campbell, and then the president's athletic commission that I'm humbled to chair sets all policy, vision, and direction. We do that with the strong support, Chancellor, thank you. And also I have to give a shout out to Brian Lapps, who meets with us regularly and gives us guidance. So thank you for letting me speak for a moment, and it is now our honor to get to work so closely with Chris Perkins. So I thank you for the opportunity to share for just a moment.
Thank you, Dr. Whaley. Well, you stole a little of my thunder, but I'll live with it. That's all good. Hey, I do want to say also, did you know that that Tennessee won their first and only national baseball championship in 2024? But the first national baseball championship by a public institution in Tennessee came in 2006 when Walter State won the NJCAA national championship. And you think softball in this state, you think about the University of Tennessee, you think Ralph and Karen Weekly. They started it. My goodness, I saw it when Jim Badia was the coach and went on from there. But Chattanooga State is the first college in Tennessee, a public institution, to win a national championship in softball when they won the national title in 2012. And then in 2014, Walter State became the second team to win a national championship in golf in the state of Tennessee. The first was MTSU in 1965. So with that said, I'm just going to give you a brief history. The TCCAA was originally established as the Tennessee Junior and Community College Athletic Association, the TJCAA. I'm a 1986 Franklin High School graduate. I remember the TJCAA like the back of my hand. And then we've been a part of the NJCAA, the National Junior College Athletic Association, in Region 7 since the beginning. Next slide, please. There was a formal announcement made of the TJCAA forming on May 9th, 1968 at Cumberland College in Lebanon. The original members of the TJCAA were Columbia State, Chattanooga City College, Cumberland College, Cleveland State, Freed-Hardeman, Hiwassee, Jackson State, Martin, and Morristown College. The first president of the TJCAA was Dr. L.P. Sands, athletic director at Columbia State, and Dr. F.E. Wright, the president of Jackson State, was named vice president of the TJCAA in 1968. Next slide. So the current members, as Dr. Whaley said, we have 11 of our 13 community colleges comprise the Tennessee Community College Athletic Association. The only two are Northeast and Nashville State are the only two that currently do not have athletics. All the others do. Next slide, please. So as Dr. Whaley referred to, we have incredible history in the state of Tennessee through the TCCAA. And I just wanted to share with you like 5 key people. And there are so many more, but Chancellor Tidings asked me to take the reins on this about 7 weeks ago. So I, fortunately, as a student assistant at Nicholls State, got to know Ed Ogeron when he was working there as a coach for a year, and we became close, and he dove right in and taught me to dive right in with tenacity and go for it. So here we go. Verdi Sales was the former Shelby State, now Southwest Tennessee head basketball coach. He started out as a high school coach at Melrose High School. In 1974, Melrose won the state championship. They were undefeated. It was the first state championship for the city of Memphis. It was also my first recollection of ever going to a sporting event when my dad and my mother took me to the state championship. I was about 6 years old. And Melrose was unbelievable. They had Alvin Wright, they had John Gunn, just an amazing basketball team. And Vice Chair Reynolds, you may be sad to know that their first win in the tournament in the quarterfinals was over Hillsborough High School at the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum. But they went on to win the state championship. After 5 years as an assistant coach at Memphis State, he took Alvin Wright and John Gunn with him to Memphis State as an assistant coach. He was named the head coach at Shelby State in 1979. His record was 709, 276 overall. He won 16 conference championships, coached 2 NBA players in Lester Hudson and McKinley Singleton, and was inducted into both the NJCAA and the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. As Dr. Whaley referred to, Andy Landers took the head coaching job at Roane State at 23 years old. He went 82-21 while he was there. At 26 years old, Vince Dooley made Coach Landers his first hire when Vince Dooley became the athletic director as well as the football coach at Georgia in 1979. National Coach of the Year 4 times at UGA, SEC Coach of the Year 3 times because he had a rival coach you might know of, Pat Summitt. And so sometimes you can be the best coach in the country but not the best coach in your conference because she was that good. 32 NCAA tournaments, 5 Final Fours. He coached 2 Olympians who won a combined 6 gold medals, and his overall record was 866 and 299. He's a member of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame and the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. And I had the opportunity for 7 years to work on the stat crew at University of Georgia for basketball. Most animated coach in the country, bar none. Just bar none. It was a treat to sit there and watch him coach. Next, please. David Weathers, a Motlow State graduate, drafted in 1988 by the Toronto Blue Jays in the 3rd round, made his major league debut in August of 1991 with the Toronto Blue Jays, then was drafted again when baseball expanded in 1992. He was taken by the Florida Marlins, He was traded to the New York Yankees in 1996 and won a World Series that same year. Finished his career with 73 wins, 976 strikeouts, played 19 seasons with 9 different MLB teams. An average Major League Baseball career is about 3 seasons. If you get 3 seasons in, that's an average. He did 19 years. Next, please. Felicia Griner. So Bobby Hudson, the Vol State athletic director, was like, you got to include Felicia Griner. Felicia Griner began her career as a point guard for the Vol State women's basketball squad, had to have an elective course. She took a course in officiating for a health and PE credit and became the only referee from the United States to work a women's basketball event at the London 2012 Olympic Games, worked her 9th women's Final Four this past year, and is a veteran referee of the WNBA. And there she is with one of the greatest coaches of all time, Pat Summitt's big rival, Gino Auriemma of Connecticut. And as Dr. Whaley alluded to, Bernadette Maddox played at Roane State, graduated in 1979, followed Coach Landers to Georgia. In 1990, became the first female to serve as an assistant coach for a men's staff under Rick Pitino. 91 staff featured Coach Pitino, Coach Maddox, Billy Donovan, Tubby Smith, and Herb Sendek. First African-American head coach of the UK women's basketball team, then coached 10 years in the WNBA. There's an iconic photo of that staff, of them. There's 5 national championships between that staff. There was Tubby Smith, there was Billy Donovan, and Rick Pitino. They won 5 national championships between them. Herb Sendek was kind of the Ringo Starr of the staff. He's won over 500 games as a basketball coach at North Carolina State, at Arizona State, and now he's at Santa Cruz, I believe. Next, please. So these are just, there's not really a record of how many we have in the pros, this and the other, so I reached out to the alumni or the athletic directors and got this. Here's a list of all those that are either playing or current or not or were once in the pros. And so you have a whole list there, including John Shelby, Charlie Mitchell, Ben Joyce, and then WNBA players. You have 3 NBA players. 2 of our players were on the 2 of our alumni were on the LA Dodgers World Series squad from last year. Landon Knack and Brent Honeywell. Next, please. So this is just to show you a little bit about what they did last year. Our 11 colleges that have athletic teams. There are a total of 250 student athletes who were named NJCAA All-Academic with a 3.6 grade point average or higher. That's out of around 1,100 athletes, a little north of 1,100 athletes, student athletes. 84 students had a perfect 4.0. 26 of our teams were recognized with a team GPA of 3.0 or higher. And a total of 553 student athletes were recognized with the L. Quentin Lane Award for Academic Excellence. That's 3.0 or higher. The number is up each year from 480 last year to 407 2 years ago. And then just quickly, this is a couple of numbers that the athletic directors put together. This is based on each college's sports eligibility roster from 24-25. So the total number of players listed as first-year participants in 24-25 on their sports eligibility roster was 681. The total number of players listed as first season that have returned for this year is 417, which is about a 61% retention rate for student athletes. Then the next slide, with that same criteria based on each college sports eligibility roster, we had a total of 429 students that were listed as second season participants or sophomores, and 323 of them graduated for 75%. Next, please. We competed in 11 different sports. Women's basketball, we competed in 11 different sports. Women's basketball, women's volleyball, women's and men's cross country, men's basketball, women's and men's soccer, baseball, softball, women's and men's golf. 5 teams last year made the NCAA Nationals in their sport. The best finish was Walter State, who finished national runner-up. Using a formula that considers regular season and postseason finishes along with the number of teams competing, Walter State won the R. Foster Chason Commissioner's Cup last year, with Chattanooga State runner-up and Columbia State finishing 3rd. We had 19 student athletes that were named NJCAA All-American last year. Walter State baseball had the National Player of the Year in Tyler Myatt. Tyler Myatt will play for Tennessee this upcoming season. He was down to Tennessee, LSU, and Texas A&M. So the opportunities for him were amazing. He led the nation in home runs, batting average, and RBI. He's Walter State's 4th National Player of the Year since 2016. They also had the best defensive player in the country, and Walter State shortstop Cole Fenton. And this is just when we say now, so there's 8 million students, according to the National Federation of High Schools. There are 8 million students playing in high school every year. To get to the 2-year college level to play sports, about 6 to 7% of those student athletes go from high school into 2-year. To get to the 4-year level, it's about 2 to 3% of those 8 million. This here in front of you is just a list of where all of our student athletes from our 2-year colleges went on to play 4-year colleges just last year. Next, please. So just to look at sport expansion, TCCA welcomed its 11th college in Pellissippi in 23-24. Pellissippi started the year with women's and men's soccer, and if you know Dr. Wise, you know there's going to be soccer. Then there's volleyball, women's and men's cross country, and men's golf that Pellissippi welcomed. In 24-25, Pellissippi added softball, baseball, women's and men's basketball, and Roane State added women's soccer. This year, Chattanooga State has added women's soccer, Dyersburg State added volleyball, women's and men's cross country, Jackson State added volleyball along with women's and men's cross country. Dyersburg State next year will add men's soccer with women's and men's golf. Volunteer State will add volleyball and women's soccer, and Jackson State will be adding women's flag football after receiving a grant from the NFL. And I can tell you the 3 sports that started this year, Chattanooga State soccer, Dyersburg State volleyball, and Jackson State volleyball, the presidents have all brought balls, 2 balls, one for you, Vice Chair Reynolds, and one for you, Chancellor Tidings, signed by their teams to commemorate their first season and their first wins. So we'll get those to you before you leave here. So just to let you know, participation by sport, I'm not a great math person myself. Baseball, softball, men's and women's basketball, all the schools compete. So the 2 big spring sports, the 2 big winter sports, everybody competes. Women's soccer, there's 7 out of our 11. Volleyball, there's 7 out of 11. Women's and men's cross country, 5 out of 11. Men's golf, 4 out of 11. And in women's golf, 1 out of 11. And men's soccer, Pellissippi State, who I'm going to go watch tonight play Andrew College at Knox Catholic. So I'm excited to see that. Wanted to just give you some postseason dates. Women's soccer, the state tournament will run from October 26th through November 2nd. The highest seed will host. Volleyball will run October 30th through November 1 at Walter State. Women's and men's cross country will be at Pellissippi on October 24th. Women's and men's basketball will start the day after SOAR at Vol State Community College. So if y'all want to have a tailgate or whatever, Chancellor said she's in. Baseball and softball will take place at Columbia State May 1 through 7. Men's golf will be April 20th through 26th in Cleveland, Tennessee. Men's soccer is to be announced, and women's golf, the winner automatically goes to the Southeast District Tournament. Just to give you, as Dr. Whaley talked about, the leadership, Mike Campbell's the chair. He's the commissioner. He's the new Foster. Bobby Hudson, Derek Creech at Walter State, Kate Willingham, Columbia State, Avery Swenson at Walters, Winston Neal, the basketball coach at Columbia State, Dr. Whaley, and then Dr. Michael Torrance has replaced Dr. Mixka on the Region 7 committee. So that concludes my report.
It was a good report. I thought I was watching ESPN there for a minute. No, that was excellent. And I love being reminded of our history. And my only complaint is there were far too many Georgia references in this. But someone sitting next to me was quite excited. No, that was really well done, Chris. Any comments for Chris or questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, please.
You mentioned, I think, Chattanooga State starting a soccer team and another. Can you or perhaps President Ashford speak to why an institution of community colleges would expand in the sport? Is it strategic for it to serve a purpose, or is it to provide more opportunities for students that are attending there? I'm just curious.
actually having a lot of requests from our community to add women's soccer, and we were noticing, particularly in some of our schools in the urban area, a lot of those students were participating in soccer, and so we wanted to have something, a home for those students, and so that's why we added it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chancellor?
I'm just going to add one comment. As you can tell, Chris has a passion for this. And when we realized that we just needed to have more information at the system level on what was going on with all of our sports activities, it was something Brian and I had talked to a good bit about. He was the perfect choice. And 7 weeks ago, I called him up and asked him if he would take this on in addition to all the other things that he does with the foundation. And he immediately said yes. So thank you to Chris for agreeing to do double duty.
Thank you. Thank you.
Regent Bradshaw?
Thank you. This is super. And I have just a question on women's flag football. Who will they compete against? And do we anticipate additional colleges taking on what I think is becoming a popular sport?
Dr. Rosson,
Well, thanks for asking. That was a good question. Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I will say I refer to the foundation now as Nick, and I refer to athletics as Katie. So I love both of them just the same, but they're like having two children.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking it on to both Chris's for your leadership. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was a great update. So we've heard a lot today about the appropriations this body has received over a number of years and how much it means to us to have that support. And each year, obviously, we establish our legislative priorities as we head into January when the legislature convenes. And the talented leader of that team, John Williams, is here with us today to talk about those priorities upcoming.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Chancellor Tidings, members of the board. I want to start out by making two comments before I get started. I wanted to thank Joel Scott and his team for the website for the strategic plan. They did an excellent job putting that together, as well as Kim Bolivar on our team who put together the printed piece that you all have. They did a really amazing job getting all of that together with the work from Dr. Deaton. So thank you guys. Also wanted to introduce a few new members of our team who've come on board as a part of the expansion of the workforce development funds. The first one, who you all may know already, Kate Walker, has joined our team to help with marketing operations. She moved over from internal audit a few weeks ago and has joined us. Doug Kuffner, who is here, is the Director of Strategic Communications for Workforce Development Initiatives, and he is back here somewhere, if you'll stand up. Doug came from the Secretary of State's office, and we're thrilled to have him on the team now, working with our TCATs to produce marketing content. Tyler Lane has also joined us as the Director of State Government Relations, and Tyler's back here. He did a stint at the legislature like many of us have done. He worked as a liaison and also worked for the General Assembly for a time. And then Eric Archer is not here, but he's our TCAT Web Services Coordinator, so also helping with content for our TCAT websites. He came from a marketing firm in Jackson, Tennessee, so we're excited to have him as well. And I also want to mention Patrick Boggs has also expanded his role as the Director of Legislation and Advancement. I think Patrick's back here too. So he's helping out Chris now that Chris has taken on some athletics. Patrick's helping with some advancement activities as well as legislation for us. So thank you guys. So, Madam Chair, I'm excited to share with the committee an overview of our proposed 2026 legislative priorities and strategic initiatives. These priorities and initiatives were shaped with input from voices across the system, including our president and senior staff and other key partners. And we'll take a deep dive into them during the next committee meeting of Business and Finance. But in this committee, I'll share a high-level overview to set the stage for that conversation. So, beginning with the overarching legislative priorities, these are priorities that have been guiding principles for our team for the past several years, and they remain so moving into 2026. Our focus is on making sure colleges have the resources and flexibility they need to serve students and communities across the state. That means continuing to secure the funding our campuses depend on, keeping college affordable and accessible, and ensuring the safety of our faculty, staff, and students. It also means investing in technology and infrastructure so we stay ahead of workforce demands. giving our institutions the flexibility to quickly adapt, and recruiting and retaining the outstanding faculty and staff who make this all possible. Next slide. Next up, I'll highlight our proposed strategic budget initiatives for next year. Like I said, we won't go into full detail in this committee, but I do want to give you a high-level overview. So first up, a Career Start Here at Community College Innovation Partnership. This proposal will help our students finish their programs and move into good jobs. It expands proven strategies like career coaching, which you heard about before, a career exploration, and completion grants so students have the support they need to overcome barriers. This proposal would bring together state and nonprofit partners to strengthen both student success and Tennessee's workforce. Next, we are proposing a targeted outreach campaign to adults who started college but didn't finish. The goal is to raise awareness and encourage more Tennesseans to come back and earn a credential using Tennessee Reconnect, like Regent Gentile mentioned in a previous conversation. Safety and security are always a high priority. We're proposing investments to strengthen both physical and cybersecurity, so improving officer coverage and emergency response across our system, enhancing protections against cyber threats. These efforts will help ensure safer, more secure environments for our students, faculty, and staff. Finally, we're proposing ongoing support to scale a system-wide electronic learner record, which will allow students to showcase their skills and credentials in one secure, portable record that will also give employers a clear view of their qualifications. Next slide. And alongside these initiatives, we're also focused on several industry sectors where Tennessee has the unique opportunity to lead, and I want to highlight some of those. Chancellor Tidings has identified 4 priority industry sectors that are vital to Tennessee's future, which include aviation, artificial intelligence, ceramic tile, and nuclear energy. Each of these sectors is tied to emerging workforce trends. So through targeted funding, we could expand these programs, recruit more students, and strengthen partnerships with industry in these areas. Next slide. We also know that hiring and retaining faculty can be a challenge in some fields. That's why we want to explore ways to attract and keep high-quality instructors at our colleges, whether that's through competitive compensation plans or other innovative approaches that support recruitment and retention. Next slide. And finally, our capital budget request includes 8 projects across our community college campuses to ensure facilities keep pace with student and workforce needs. You can see the list of the projects there. New buildings and renovations will support hands-on experiential learning and address modern teaching methods that require flexible and adaptable spaces. So with that, Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation as a high-level overview, and we can go into more details in the next committee. But happy to take questions if there are any.
Anything for John? Regent DeWitt?
I had one question. When I looked at some of the meeting materials and I was looking at those priority sectors, industry sectors, the request around nuclear is significant, especially in comparison to, aviation, where you might think there's a lot of investment, the capital and such that would go into that. So can you just kind of give a snippet as to what is part of that industry sector?
Sure, and Jeff Sis is going to come up in a minute and talk a little more in depth about that, so we can do that at this point, or we can bring him up.
Yep, that's fine.
The word nuclear is music to people's ear,
I
particularly
know.
here in
I
East
mean,
Tennessee, right?
here
So
we
it's an
are,
exciting
Oak Ridge
time
and-
again. No, good, that's right, good question.
Hold it
Anything
for
else
next one.
for John? All right, well done as always. Look forward to meeting the new members of the team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Is there any further business to come before the External Affairs Committee? Hearing none, we stand adjourned and we will roll into finance here with Chairman White.
Sure you don't want to run this one too?
You're the expert.
All right. So I'm calling the Committee on Finance and Business Operations to order, and I'll ask Secretary Perry to please call the roll.
Regent Bradshaw.
Here.
Regent Branscombe.
Here.
Regent George. Regent Jeremy Harrell. Regent Kastner.
Here.
Chairman White.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Great. Since we have a quorum, we'll proceed with the first agenda item. And our single agenda item is the review of the fiscal year 26-27 legislative priorities budget request. And I'll ask Executive Vice Chancellor Fox, who is up there already, to summarize the staff's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The next slides will include our legislative priorities as were just presented in a brief format by our Associate Vice Chancellor John Williams in External Affairs. As you may recall, each year the priorities are presented in both External Affairs and in the Business and Finance Committee, with the fiscal note being attached in the Finance Committee. The FY 26-27 request includes 6 legislative priorities, you have already heard, 1 community college sector capital project, and 2 system strategic initiatives. This priority request presentation for business finance will be a group effort, and I will ask others to present briefly on their areas of emphasis. Slide. So at this time, I will turn it over to Executive Vice Chancellor Russ Deaton to discuss the first of our 6 requests.
Thank you, Alicia. Well, this one has an interesting runway, and I'm going to go back to the spring meeting, I think it was, Regent Gentile, of the Higher Education Commission, at which they asked a variety of folks from THEC, from TBR, and from other organizations to present on known student success pilots and initiatives that were working and the evidence for those. And so THEC staff presented, the executive director of Tennessee Achieves presented, Dr. Moreland presented on the coaching project, which you heard earlier. And after all that, you had a couple of commission members, Stephen, who basically said, y'all need to bring those things forward for our funding consideration. And so Chancellor Tidings quickly dispatched us to begin to gather those 4 entities. You had THEC, TBR, and 2 of the Promise Partner organizations, Ayers Foundation and Tennessee Achieves, to begin to develop a partnership, which we think is the first of its kind in the U.S., to bring those public and private entities together around community college success innovations that work. We've dubbed it Career Start Here Tennessee. Again, the first of its kind in the U.S. It's trying to identify known pilots, known initiatives, and innovations that are on either soft money or grant funding that ought to be a permanent part of the Tennessee higher education ecosystem. Therefore, the first item is a $16 million package that has 4 broad buckets. The first one's around how you bridge from high school to college, get more people into higher education, and bring more adults into higher ed using some known THEC pilots that work, Advise Tennessee, and Navigate Reconnect. The second one is how you address the issue of students who are academically underprepared for college and bringing them further along to their credentials and their degrees. That one is essentially exactly what you've heard Dr. Moreland present at recent board meetings around the coaching project and the success of that, trying to scale that up much larger. The third is around low-income student supports. This one speaks to completion grants, the idea that 2 partner organizations, Ayers and Achieves, are able to give out completion grants to students facing emergencies, say a rent issue or a gas emergency, or for costs that go beyond tuition and fees and associated coaching with that. And then the fourth bucket is to essentially try to find the next wave of innovations, to seed the next future programs of innovations down the road, so that here in a few years we've got the next wave of ideas that can come before the state for consideration. Again, all that is jointly being recommended by THEC, TBR, Ayers, and Achieves as a joint effort, probably the first of its kind in the U.S. that we know of. Total package of $16 million recurring. And I guess I will pass the baton off, right, Alicia, to John Williams.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I love being first in the nation on anything. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure.
Like, what makes this, we're doing the coaching, we're doing some of these
Yeah.
things already. It's the collaboration?
It's the partnership. And let me emphasize, too, it's not just a partnership to be able to approach the legislature for funding. It's going to be, hopefully, if this works, an ongoing operational partnership where we work with those entities to deepen the work we do with them, to better align the gears. All those entities bring a lot of capacity, a lot of expertise, a lot of resources. How do we best bring those folks together, that capacity together, to serve students in a coherent way, a coherent strategy, leveraging all of our resources from those 4 entities? All right, John.
Okay, the next one is marketing for adult student recruitment, 1.5 million recurring. And so as we've talked about before, there's a large pool of Tennesseans with some college credit but no credentials. So this proposal would be to promote the Tennessee Reconnect program. We have a strong creative team in our staff who is able to roll out campaigns, but getting some dedicated funding to do targeted campaigns for this population. We've looked at doing day in the life videos, kind of showing people what the types of programs that people could go into are and kind of what that might look like. So trying to promote some of those and letting students know that they could come to our colleges tuition free and that it is within reach financially. So with this funding, we could launch coordinated recruitment efforts, targeted campaigns that lead to those high paying jobs that are in demand across the state.
And I should have said at the beginning, Mr. Chairman, if you're fine with that, we can take questions along the way as people are up here presenting on their individual, because they're probably best suited to answer the question. And I am here today. My first request I'm presenting focuses on physical safety and security. So as you can see, actually we go back one slide. Sorry. There we go. The 2.7 million recurring and a 3.5 million non-recurring for physical safety and security. With the heightened focus on safety in our schools, our colleges continue to face challenges, including recruitment and retention of officers, ability to provide coverage for various satellite locations, and the ability to update their facilities with the newest equipment and technology to meet today's standards. The TBR Department of Safety and Security, who's provides support and guidance for our community college and TCAT police departments, has fully utilized the original recurring funding that was provided to hire officers at our TCATs several years ago. Prior to that funding, which we received in 2022, our TCATs had no post-certified police officers. So they did have some security personnel, but no police officers. While we are extremely appreciative of this funding, the amount received funded only one officer per TCAT. All of our TCATs have multiple satellite locations, not to mention that their hours of operation on a weekly basis are more than can be covered by a single officer. Meaning there are hours and locations across our system when our colleges have no officer presence. And the same can be said for our community colleges. The 2.7 million recurring request would allow TBR to add 35 additional officers across our TCATs and community colleges to provide coverage at these satellite locations, as well as second shift coverage for our campuses. Based on our survey of college police departments, their number one need was more personnel to support their large campus footprints in multiple locations. In addition, the 3.5 million non-recurring request is to implement a statewide campus mapping project to include all TBR colleges. Campus mapping involves the use of geographic information systems and indoor positioning systems to create detailed and dynamic maps of campus layouts. These maps enhance situational awareness and communication, allowing emergency responders to quickly assess critical assets and respond to incidents. They are also enabled crowdsourcing and reporting of incidents, such as locating life safety assets and suspicious packages. Additionally, these maps can be used for everyday workflows, providing a clear visual guide for safe exits during emergencies and for non-emergency situations like space planning and resource allocation. In addition, the non-recurring dollars would provide funding toward the equipment needs specifically for our police departments. The 2024 safety grants provided by the state provided funding for our colleges to make significant progress on overall campus safety, but did not allow for department-specific purchases. Our police departments are in need of additional vehicles, PPE, and other essential equipment. Next slide. And the second security request before you today focuses on cybersecurity. And you can see this is an $8 million recurring request. For those of you that have been on the board for a while, you will know this is a recurring request that we have included in the past couple of years. Cybersecurity is a critical need for all of our colleges and the system office. Higher education entities are high value and frequent targets of attackers because they host large amounts of sensitive student and employee data. The longer a breach goes undetected, the more difficult the recovery and the greater the cost. In the immediate aftermath of an attack, restoring operations can be the primary or sole task for most administrators. Almost every form of communication with students and faculty is shut down. Student access to learning materials and tools is decreased, at least temporarily. The job of faculty becomes much more difficult, and there is inevitably loss of learning, a significant risk of decreased enrollment, and an increased chance that students will not be completing their studies. It's critical that TBR colleges have the tools necessary to prevent as many attacks as possible and the ability to detect and respond to a successful attack as quickly as possible. Educational opportunities for our communities are an essential service, and colleges can't risk downtime or the amount of money and time needed to recover from a successful attack. $3 million of the recurring request will allow TBR to hire a full-time Chief Information Security Officer, an additional IT auditor,
2 security specialists at the system office, as well as provide funding to hire additional security specialists to monitor and provide cybersecurity at each of our colleges. Given that database security and third-party service security are 2 of the largest cybersecurity risks, $5 million recurring would allow for the procurement of standardized security monitoring and intrusion testing software for all of our colleges within the system, as well as hardware improvements such as firewall and server upgrades. This would also allow for expansion of the TBR System Office IT capabilities, increasing the capacity to provide standardization and redundancy across ERP maintenance and operational functions at all colleges within the system. Happy to answer questions about security if you have any.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Back on the prior slide, is $2.7 million recurring for 35 security plus equipment as well. If that was just for salary and benefits, it's coming up to like 77,000. Is that enough for security personnel of 35 campuses?
Yes. It's a little low, but our salary average for police officers is somewhere between the 40 to 50,000 range.
Okay.
And then plus benefits.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Which leads to one of our other priorities at the end about a salary study.
I hear you. I hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This sounds like if you go this slide here, this sounds like a pretty significant upgrade to our IT cyber security. Are we that far behind, or what are we doing now because I agree. Okay, I think this is a huge threat that we need to deal with. So it makes me nervous that maybe we're behind the curve.
No, I wouldn't say we're behind the curve. We have experienced some cyber attacks across our system, and for the most part, we have been pretty successful in recovering from those. I think just in general, cybersecurity, whether it's the salaries and positions for the individuals in those roles, those are typically higher salary positions, especially if you're competing with private sector. And then just the actual equipment and software and 24/7 monitoring is expensive. So we are currently covered today, but we don't have dedicated security specialists at each individual college to the extent that we would like to see that. So a lot of the recurring funding is personnel, just to expand our personnel coverage.
Is most of that handled at the DBR level, so we have a unified set of infrastructure, or does each college work on that on their own?
So our TCATs are on the, we're in a MEPT environment, so our TCATs in the system office share IT support and personnel for our database systems and our cybersecurity. But on the campuses, they do have tech support, if you will, and some of them are in various degrees of the number of personnel if they have an IT specific director or coordinator there. Most of our community colleges have their own IT director and then various levels of staffing on the tech support side and the database side. So at this point, the community colleges are on their own as far as their ERP system. We do provide some support for the back end processes, but for the most part, that is decentralized at the community colleges.
I'm just going to lean in on that answer a little bit too, to say that what we're seeing is, as Alicia alluded to, higher ed is a soft target. They know that we have a lot of student information, personal identifiable information in our category, so we are seeing those threats tick up. And while we're warding them off to a great degree, we've got a couple of presidents that went through some very severe attacks. We were able to help and work with them, but it was a round-the-clock work to get them back to a level that they could be functional. Every day, the threat actor figures out a different way to attack us. So while I wouldn't even say we're in pretty good shape. We're here. We've got to be up here. And we've got to continue to increase that just because of the way the world
is turning at the moment.
I completely agree with that. I work in the banking world, and the biggest threat to us is not guns and robberies and holdups. It's a cyber attack, period. Number one threat. So I just hope this is enough to do what y'all need to do. So.
Say it's a start. It would be a really good start. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chancellor Heidi Limping.
Presented on TBR credit at previous meetings, but I finally get to say that we are birthing this baby. My Heather Brown, who's in my office, just had a baby. She's been leading this pilot work for 2 years. I can say this is a 7-year birthing process for me to get TBR cred launched. We will give this out to all of our fall 2025 graduates. So as soon as they graduate, they will get the TBR cred. We're working with marketing to do a whole statewide campaign on this. Not to make another Georgia reference, but I'm a Georgia alum, and they recently released their cred. I saw as an alum, I got that. Universities are doing this at an individual level. We will be the first system to do this, and it doesn't usually happen at a TCAT or a community college. So this is really, really exciting news, and we got it to where we want it to launch. We need the reoccurring money to keep it going.
The woman who needs no introduction. Good to see everyone again. I am so excited to talk about our work in AI. I think the board knows now that AI is my favorite song, so let me turn it up for you and talk about the funding that we need. We know artificial intelligence is rapidly shaping Tennessee's economy, and there are new employer signals that say more than ever we need to prepare our students for the workforce. And we're going to be doing this work through embedding AI into our academic and workforce programs, shaping statewide policy, and fostering industry partnerships. To do a little framing for new board members to understand the landscape of where we are in AI, to help give you context for this actual request. Give me one moment. It looks like it moved. Okay, it's just general. Okay, I'll just leave it there. So I wanted to talk about the things that we've already done in this space. As you all know, we have done the work of developing and implementing TBR's AI policy. That is really important. We've done some research. We're one of the few systems in the southeast part of the country who even has this kind of policy at scale. We have also established through Academic Affairs over a year ago the AI Learning Collaborative, and this has been really essential in expanding this AI work across the system. We have developed the Bridge and Minds and Machines Hub. That's where we have tools, resources, and training for faculty, staff, and administrators. We have also created communities of practice so that faculty can learn from other faculty and begin to pilot innovations around this work. And we have also led over 43 AI trainings across the state with over 1,000 participants, including university partners, to learn from our experts across the board. This great work is led by Dr. Chuck Lopez and Dr. Jamie Nelson in Academic Affairs. So again, I want to share that so that you understand AI is so much more than ChatGPT. It really is thinking about AI as a broad set of technologies that analyze data, identify patterns, make predictions, and automate complex tasks. Think about what the workforce is doing and the implications for our programs at TBR. In healthcare, AI is now being used to analyze medical images and predicts patient outcomes. In advanced manufacturing, AI optimizes production lines and predicts equipment maintenance. In logistics and supply chain management, it predicts product demand, automates inventory management, and optimizes delivery routes. So we are so beyond ChatGPT. And so this is really critical because this funding lets us do the work to make sure our programs are leading in this space and preparing graduates for the workforce. And now AI is an essential part of that function. To accelerate those efforts, we're requesting $4.18 million to legislative funding. It includes $1.7 million in recurrent funding to support staffing at the system level to coordinate this robust portfolio of activities. It also will provide faculty stipends so that we can bring in subject matter experts to make sure we're integrating AI into different disciplines and having them be a part of that work. It will support our communities of practice so faculty can pilot new ideas, technologies, and learn how this works. It would also be used to support recruitment across the state from the system level, new AI softwares and platforms, and innovation grants to support colleges to pilot new AI programs, workforce training, and industry partnerships. And we also want to use this funding to offer employer-led training and upskilling their employees and make sure they're prepared for AI changes within their own industry. It also includes $2.4 million of non-recurring funding that will allow us to expand our AI pathways across the state through retooling our curriculum, our redesign of certificates, associates, and workforce training, and as well redoing our skills-based assessment that aligns us to employer needs using AI. We also want to bring in mobile AI labs, particularly to our rural environments, so that we can create these very immersive experiences for students that get hands-on experiences with AI, including augmented and virtual reality experiences. And we also want to create more AI statewide conferences to bring in stakeholders from industry, our colleges, our university partners, to share best practices and pilot new technologies and create challenges to encourage more innovation in the space. Let me leave you with this. We are not reacting to AI. We're leading this work. And so we're excited that we can get this funding. We can continue to scale this across the state to continue that impact that's TBR. Any questions?
I have one. Did I read or did I maybe dream, and maybe it's a good dream, that there's some thought around taking the skill sets and the just the leading edge knowledge that we have and also bringing that to the community and offering the community to step inside our campuses and maybe learn a little bit about this and upskill the entire community?
Yeah, that's certainly a part as we talk about public-private partnerships that's in the write-up to create that, not just with the industry, but communities as well. We have the experts within TBR, and so we want to expand that capacity and open the doors to all of Tennessee that we serve.
Teach all the old dogs new tricks and everything.
Quick question. Is there work being done to look at the jobs? This may be in the strategic plan, but 5 to 10 years from now that either will not exist or are being dramatically impacted by AI, and which of those jobs that we train for now?
Yeah, that is part of the work we're doing through the strategic plan as well as our communities of practice. Again, it is embedding AI into our current programs, but also planning for the programs we don't even know we need yet. But again, giving people that AI literacy so they understand it from the classroom, from the administrative office, from our employer partners. So again, we want to make sure this is a conversation engagement across all stakeholders as we do this work, whether that is employment, creation, co-creation of programs, and just new technologies so the students from the K-12 space, from DE programs start getting engaged with this, all the way through completion of our programs to graduation.
Thank you.
Any other questions on AI? All right, well, I will go to the next one on aviation. We also have a funding proposal to support the essential expansion of aviation and avionics across the state. Just as a quick snapshot to think about that distinction, aviation really focuses on the aviation industry and flying, and avionics, thinking about that, is a really intricate parts within the plane. We have currently 3 TCATs and 3 community colleges that are offering aviation or avionics training. Just as a quick snapshot, the avionics program really prepares our graduates to test, troubleshoot, maintain, and repair electronic systems and components of large and small aircraft. Our TCAT's aviation maintenance program really teaches students to inspect and repair, overhaul airframe and power plant systems. And the aviation electronics program prepares them for all components of that large and small aircraft. In community college, their programs focus on the aviation operations technology that really is preparing people to be professional commercial pilots, flight dispatchers, and aviation administration, as well as the community college offers the aviation technology program that lets them become authorized inspectors, aircraft maintenance, and repair technicians. Our state is home to over 350 FAA identified environments and facilities. So that's airports, heliports, and seaplane bases, which really underscores the scale of aviation opportunities across this state. All of these programs collectively have experienced an enrollment rise of between 25 to 50%, and the workforce signals show that these programs are going to grow in over 10% over the next 10 years, adding about 1,000 jobs to Tennessee. So to accelerate these efforts, we are requesting the funding expand programs to 2 more TCATs and 2 more community colleges. There's a need to support this growth in this sector, really in Middle and East Tennessee, with each 1 community college and 1 TCAT in each of those grand divisions as part of that ask. The first part in recurring funds is $874,000. That would cover faculty salaries and benefits, consumables, our recruitment efforts from the system office, and program oversight of this expansion at the system office. We've also asked for a little over $2 million in non-recurring to actually fund the program equipment, tools, facility renovations like classroom and certain furniture they may need to add in there, and instructional materials. So that total ask would help us support and expand this so that we keep pace with the industry growth for aviation. I do want to also highlight, we've got a lot of skin in the game. Part of that funding, there's another $2.3 million that the TCAT facility funds will support as part of the program. And so again, this is a very high needs area, great job growth potential. And again, the funding will help us support that expansion. Any questions on aviation? So you approve, thank you. No, anything else? All right, thank you.
So the final 2 priority industry sectors are interesting for many reasons, but to me, they're kind of driven by Tennessee's geography, if you think about it. Ceramic tile manufacturing in Tennessee reminds me of the distillery business. It's driven by our state's natural resources, and the 4 primary ingredients in ceramic tile manufacturing are ball clay, feldspar, kaolin, and bentonite. Tennessee is the #1 state in the country for ball clay mining. 90% of all ceramic tile manufactured in the U.S. includes Tennessee ball clay. Weakley County, Tennessee, in northwest Tennessee, is home to some of the largest ball clay deposits in the country. There are huge feldspar deposits over in western North Carolina. So when you take that ball clay from Gleason in Weakley County, you take the feldspar and they go towards each other on the trucks, they land in about Putnam County, Crossville, Baxter, Tennessee. If you drove here from the west, you saw the Stone Peak ceramic tile plant as well. So that's a perfect location for that based on Tennessee's geography. These industries, these ceramic tile manufacturers, and there's 8 in the state of Tennessee, need to be our assistants on modernizing, upgrading the skills for their current workforce and their future workforce. And that leads to this ceramic tile ask. We've got some non-recurring funds and a TBR program expansion fund that we have that will buy equipment, things kilns and cutters and mixers, or some facility renovation upgrades we'll need to do, initial supplies, things like that. But the recurring ask that you see here will address faculty salaries, faculty benefits, some system office coordinator level funding, marketing, recruitment, consumables, things like that. And the marketing and recruitment angle is incredibly important because you can build the world's greatest workforce development pipeline, from dual enrollment programs to apprenticeships on the tail end of it for this industry. But until you have the raw material, the students in that pipeline, it's not going to do you any good. So that's where we are in ceramic tile, and I'll pause there. If there are any questions, you should have seen me and Vice Chancellor Reed walking around that quarry mine where they were doing ball clay. We were there with ECD Commissioner McWhirter and some of his team. This is a priority industry for ECD as well. Okay, and the second one is nuclear energy. So in kind of a similar vein, geography and natural resources are why the Manhattan Project landed in Oak Ridge in the 40s. A remote location, landlocked, not susceptible to bombing by the Axis powers in World War II. A perfect population size at the time, but in close proximity to Knoxville for workforce recruitment into the Oak Ridge operations. A lot of folks looking for non-agrarian employment. So those assets, including TVA, leading to plentiful water and electricity to the site. Those assets are still here. So what you've got in Oak Ridge today is an area that embraces nuclear technology. So you'll see news reports sometimes from across the country. People are protesting about nuclear sites and stuff. You've got generations and generations of folks in and around the Oak Ridge area that have worked with the nuclear and in the nuclear industry for years. They embrace it here. Our colleges embrace nuclear energy and the workforce technology as well. And we're in a nuclear renaissance right now. I think every other month I see another industry announcement in this area regarding nuclear, and some of the largest CapEx projects in the state of Tennessee history are happening right here, and we're excited about it. What a lot of people don't realize, though, is nuclear technology education. Most people think about those PhDs, and there are those there, but the majority of the workforce are trained within the scope of what we do at TBR as it relates to construction and ongoing facility operations and things. So we're excited about that. Chancellor Tidings recently has appointed Teresa Duncan, who's the VP of Workforce Development here at Roane State, as TBR's nuclear workforce lead strategist. And Teresa's actually at the Oak Ridge site today. She came from a nuclear meeting. She's waiting on us to get there tonight. I think she's going to speak very briefly tomorrow morning as well. On the nuclear side, recurring, yeah, that's a big ask. Those are some big numbers there, but it's a huge industry with huge economic impact. Complete nuclear labs, existing equipment, existing lab expansion, initial supplies. We're going to target 3 colleges, and as Vice Chancellor Reed noted earlier, we're going to go where the need is. Even though the epicenter of nuclear technology and the Renaissance nuclear energy is right here, there are nuclear-related logistics and supply chain jobs all across the state. So we'll identify those. Those will be about a $12 million or $10 million non-recurring ask to cover that. The recurring ask will cover things like faculty, program director salaries at community colleges, faculty salaries at some of our TCATs, adjunct and subject matter experts, hiring someone qualified to teach nuclear technology or nuclear related. That is a whole nother level. So we'll factor that into our faculty salaries. Benefits, system level coordinator, again, marketing and recruitment into this field. It has to be a statewide or even a regional marketing to get those folks into the workforce development pipeline for this. Equipment maintenance, tuition for non-credit training as well, quick skills upgrades, kind of nuclearizing some of those construction and other related skill sets. Welding, we think we know how to weld, but can you weld at a level that passes inspection at a nuclear plant? That's a whole nother level, and that takes a specialized set of skills for things. Student incentives and innovation funding as well. So nuclear is that 4th priority industry sector that we're going to tackle, and looking forward to working with the legislature this year to advocate on behalf of TBR for those industry sectors. So I'll pause there.
I'll just lean in a little bit on this one as well. Again, I think you were alluding to how do we come up with these industry sectors? Well, we work very closely with the Department of Labor and the Department of Economic Development. They guide us on where we need to go. The governor's office, as you already know, has declared nuclear as one of the ones that he is going to focus on. He is also highly interested in ceramic tile because of the number of companies that we have looking at the state. Aviation has just continued to multiply across the state. And then artificial intelligence speaks for itself. We all know where we're headed with that. But these are the top 4. And for the colleges that are, hearing this, we don't know where these programs, if we receive this money, we have not determined which colleges will actually receive the funding. We'll be working hand in hand with them to see what they need, to see where we need to go, and to see where the industry needs to be located. So that'll be part of the planning as we continue forward to see how much money we receive on this. If called upon, Dick Tracy can do it.
Who is coming up next to the podium, by the way?
Jeff, I will add, it's very obvious you talked to the Department of Labor and Economic and Community Development, because I'll tell you, as a chamber, an economic recruiter, West Tennessee's done extremely well, Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee. We can have the best workforce in the world, But unless we're able to continue to power it, we are not going to be successful. And I was waiting till you said something about the supply chain, because one of the things that's happening in the state now is that we're focused so much, and rightly so, on Oak Ridge, that the rest of the state doesn't understand the supplier network that will need to be built. And so this is fantastic to see these numbers here, because that will certainly help with that.
So we're going to do some marketing. We'll have a nuclear summit. There's more info coming on that. You all will receive an invitation to that. We're having a lot of in-depth conversations and deep thinking about the marketing aspect of it. For example, young people are interested in nuclear technology as an alternative fuel source and green technology, and is the biggest green technology or energy technology out there. So those are some of the things we're looking at with the marketing funds that are in this as well. Yes, sir.
I wanted to speak just a minute on the relationship of the proper workforce on the nuclear energy. Most of what you're reading in the paper, while it's true, is based on long-term commitments. Mm-hmm. These are not going to be facilities that show up next month. Some of them are planned for the 30s, 2030s, some longer than that, as a matter of fact. Oak Ridge has been very successful in marketing that as a nuclear-friendly community, mm-hmm. and having the resources necessary to deliver on the promise to Americanize our sources of energy. Mm-hmm. And that's been the major pitch, I think, that has brought us that reputation. We're not the only company, only state in the union that wants to be the nuclear power industry leader. Texas wants to be there, Idaho wants to be there. Practically everybody sees the future with the energy needs as favoring investments in nuclear energy. But from our perspective, you'll also find that it's a very knowledgeable market out there who recognizes what they need and is willing to go to the proper sources to get it. Dr. Whaley has been very effective in talking along with Teresa Duncan, mm-hmm. about our abilities to produce that workforce. And now it's time to deliver on that promise, I think. But you'll find a very receptive community. Regent and I are both involved deeply in that, from even the public school foundation in Oak Ridge. So you have a cohesive opportunity where the high schools, so forth, or K through 12s, will support a plan to move it forward through some up through community college, some through tech schools, and some through University of Tennessee. University of Tennessee was, in fact, as part of the marketing, the first university in the country to have a nuclear engineering department. And they're being now followed by Tennessee Tech University, who's developing that. So it looks like, I don't like that term perfect storm because it's overused, but this is perfect storm. Agreed. We have the right elements together to be able to market what we should be marketing as TBR.
100% agree.
Thank you. I think this is a great list. I think if we can figure out a way to do these, it's going to make Tennessee better. I hope, let's see, Dr. Whaley, is the nuclear lab on the tour tonight? Okay, so most of us will never get to go inside of Y-12, the National Security Complex. You know, the Fort Knox of uranium, which is in Oak Ridge. But Roane State has built a classroom that is like a material access area inside of Y-12. So when you go through there tonight, it'll be as if you were inside Y-12. And I can tell you it is very realistic. So these students have to badge in, they have to use health physics equipment, they have to use glove boxes. I mean, it is not the PhDs that we've got to worry about. It's the technical workers that, frankly, we're nervous that we are not going to have enough of. And companies, unless we do what we're doing, and companies are making decisions on where to locate by workforce, is a big part of that. And so to Regent Spurgeon's point, these jobs are not going to just be in Oak Ridge. They're going to be all over Tennessee. And we've got to provide the students who become the employees that know how to do that. And to Barry's point, Regent Stevenson's point, it's competitive. Do not think we're going to just walk into this and win it. We've got to be competitive, and this positions us to do that. So I'm proud of this list.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll lean in again on that as well. For every one PhD, the estimated number of tech supports that they need is 9. So, you know, we've got a lot of work to do in order to make the state ready for what the storm is bringing our way. And so we want to make sure that we are.
I think it's my time. I'm going to hand off to Dick Tracy.
Good afternoon. So what we have in the priority list are the same projects we brought at the June meeting. And the request is to help in our investment in our community college infrastructure. So there are 8 projects across the state. 6 of these are at the main campuses, and 2 of these would be either new sites or replacing leased facilities to help grow those. The projects are at Cleveland State, Columbia State, Dyersburg, and that's to establish a new facility in Henry County. Nashville State, Northeast State, Volunteer State, and that's the new Wilson County campus, which they will be pairing with TCAT Hartsville on that site, and Walter State. You'll find additional details regarding these projects and the scope of work in the meeting materials. The request is for $472.1 million of non-reoccurring. And these new buildings will renovate and strengthen workforce development, expand hands-on learning, and give campuses the flexibility to adapt to the modern technology methods and to accommodate industry training needs.
And Presidents, these are in alphabetical order. We did not rank them in level of importance.
You don't have to, you don't have to call me. They are in alphabetical order. And we've met with, Chancellor and I have already met with the governor to have these. We've sent these to THEC for consideration for our capital outlay requests. And we've uploaded these to F&A for the consideration. And I think they're setting up meetings now to start talking about next year's funding. Thank you.
We have a couple of other proposed system initiatives that we're still looking into the details of these, but wanted to bring them up as well. These look at faculty salaries across the system. Many of our colleges already partner with local business and industry professionals to bring them into the classroom. And these arrangements are win-win because students gain real-world experience, cutting-edge insights, and companies build a pipeline of workers who are trained to their needs. We want to explore some ways to incentivize and expand these partnerships, potentially through a tax incentive pilot program or a grant that would help formalize this process of bringing these industry professionals into the classroom on an adjunct basis. The goal is to strengthen the connection between education and industry while ensuring students are prepared for the jobs of today and tomorrow. So that's the first one, and then I think Dr. Fox is going to talk about the other one.
So our final item is a system office initiative to examine system-wide salary structures, which I hinted at a little bit earlier. I think to your question, Regent Gentile. So over the past few years, we have heard at the system office from our colleges quite frequently received feedback about the challenges around competitive salaries as compared to the private sector. So over the course of the next fiscal year, our office will begin an initiative to explore compensation structures to gather data on how we compare to other organizations within the public and private sector,
conduct listening tours to identify pain points, and provide training sessions to increase transparency and understanding around our compensation plans. This initiative does not have a fiscal note, as much of the work will be conducted internally, but we did want to recognize this publicly and share this with our colleges because we did hear you. We understand that this is a big priority for you and that's something that you want us to look at. So no fiscal note. I just wanted to publicly declare that we will be looking at this from a system-wide standpoint over the course of this next year. And I will continue to keep the board and our colleges up to date throughout the progress, because again, I'll be calling on many of you for some listening sessions and some task force as we identify this work. But Chairman White, that concludes our presentation of the legislative priorities and the budget requests associated with those priorities, and I will pause if there are any other questions.
Great. Any more questions? Great discussion. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as the son of one of those former nuclear PhDs at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and the husband of a wife who texted me a few minutes ago to say that we have an appointment at the Louisville Tile Store on Monday because we're going to start the renovation of a bathroom, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve the consideration of the fiscal year 26-27 legislative priorities budget request?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second? Mariah, I think this calls for a roll call vote, so please call the roll.
Regent Bradshaw.
Aye.
Regent Branscombe.
Aye.
Regent Kastner.
Aye.
Chairman White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. So this completes our agenda for today. If there's any other business to come before the committee, if not, then I declare the committee meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. And as you said, that was a good discussion. So bear with us here just a couple of more minutes as we wrap up and think about the next few hours. Just a couple of quick announcements. And Dr. Whaley, if you want to make your way back up as well. Committee reports and materials for tomorrow's meeting will be on the TBR website later this afternoon. For committee chairs, a copy of your reports will be at the front desk of the hotel when you return from dinner this evening. And tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we'll be right back here where we'll hear from President Kelly Cheney and President Chris Whaley about their good work, our 30-minute window into the good work at both of our institutions. And then our meeting follows on at 9:30. But Dr. Whaley, anything else we need to know either about tomorrow, but most especially, we've got some moving parts for this evening. So fill us in on what we need to do.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Chancellor, members of the board. It's been a full day. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for letting us host you. Thank you for being a part of our ribbon cutting ceremony, for being part of the tours this morning. Thank you to TCAT Knoxville for a wonderful lunch that we enjoyed. So let's get back to working our way back to food. How about that? As you leave, if you did not drive, if you were brought here by one of our shuttles, you'll find those ready for you. If you go out and to the left, they'll be ready for you as soon as you exit the building. Once you get back to the hotel, you will find that the hospitality room is open and operating. Importantly, in addition to beverages and snacks, among our 20 health science programs at Roane State Community College is a massage therapy program. And there are chair massages available in the hospitality room. I thought that might bring some smiles of anticipation. Here's the trick. We've got to get you back, get you in a chair massage, get you relaxed for a little bit. But then we've got just a window of time, because one of the challenges about all the things that we would like for you to see, obviously here celebrating and honoring the important work in health science, but so much has been said about the nuclear renaissance that we cannot be this close to Oak Ridge without taking you into Oak Ridge. So at 6 o'clock, please, Eastern time, no later than 6 o'clock, please be prepared to board one of our shuttles, and we will take you first to the Oak Ridge branch campus, where you'll have an opportunity to see our nuclear lab, our chemical operator lab, which is another important workforce feeding program into nuclear, and then also into our cyber defense lab, which has already been, the importance of that has been discussed today. In fact, if some of you happen to be ready a little bit before before 6. I think our shuttles will actually start departing about 5:45. So, but no later than 6, because we'll only have just a few minutes to get you in and let you see those tours before we take you over to the Oak Ridge Conference Center, the brand new Oak Ridge Conference Center, for dinner. Please have your name tags. Your tickets for drinks tonight are in your name tag, so please bring that with you. I've already been asked several times, you do not have to be formal tonight, so please feel free to lose ties and jackets if you would like to. We want you to be comfortable at dinner and during the tours. So we will look forward to seeing everyone there. Dinner will begin at 7:15 tonight. Shuttles will begin departing back for the hotel at 8:30. If I did not address something, Madam Vice Chair, I'll be glad to try to do that.
I think you covered the landscape quite
Okay.
well. Anyone have any questions for Dr.? I'm sorry?
Yes,
Yes, yes.
it will be secure, absolutely.
Anyone else? All right, Chancellor, thank you.
Yes,
Proceed,
I would
Short.
just like to take a moment and introduce our newest president of Walter State. Dr. Saul Reyes is with us today for his first board meeting. He began his duties officially on September 8th, and he told me today he's still pleased to be here, so we're so happy to have him. I also would like to take just another moment to thank Dr. Tom Sewell, who served as the interim president. Tom, if you would please stand, let us thank you. And just look forward to seeing everybody tonight. I think it's going to be a great event. We do thank Roane State and TCAT Knoxville for all the efforts that you put in. It's been a wonderful day so far, and we're looking forward to the evening and tomorrow. Thank you.
No, thank you. It has been a great day, and having Mayor Jacobs with us this morning, having some folks. May I finish? I'm sorry. I know.
The bell rang.
You guys, I know exactly. Oh, well, I may have to give up. I do want to publicly thank one more time Mayor Jacobs for being here, our Lieutenant Governor most especially, and as we talked about this morning, all the support he's given us. And there was one individual some of you might not have known along the way, but I did want to mention that former University of Memphis President Shirley Raines was with us this morning. She now lives in the Oak Ridge area. She is still on the foundation board here at Roane State. So she has stayed connected with us throughout the years, and she is just an outstanding individual. Second of all, quickly, because I'm losing my friends out there, welcome again to our new regents. I hope you found this a productive day, and we look forward to visiting with you all further tonight. It's just a pleasure to have you here. And finally, our friend Danny Varlin and her husband Tom, who's a federal judge here in Knoxville, will be joining us tonight, and I know we all look forward to saluting her tremendous service tomorrow. So with that, unless anybody has a hankering to bring something else up, thanks for a great day. We stand adjourned. Thanks, you guys.
Sorry about that.